Yo bro, imagine, your life hits a dead end even before you turn 30. Our guy Ryoichi just lost his father, and the family electronics store is officially closing its doors. He stared into his father's sanctuary and feels like total junk he couldn't keep the dream alive. Now he's just another unemployed person in a bad economy. He literally bows to some suit for a job and gets rejected like a rookie. No one calls back or invites him back, and his social life is pure emptiness. His phone is basically paperweight because that number is no longer in use. He looks at the low ceiling and can't understand how his existence became so mediocre. He thinks I lost everything lying in his cluttered room, all in disorder. He decides to kill time by reading online novels and accidentally clicks on a suspicious banner. A message pops up on the screen, transfer you to another world. He thinks his schedule already has zero delay, so why not? Then the site starts bombarding him with detailed questions about fantasy cliches like ogres and elves. This survey has over 100 questions, and he is already starting to feel this exhausting marathon. Finally, he presses the send button. Suddenly, there is a knock at the door. A boy named Kami Shurahito is standing on the doorstep. The man looks like a corporate villain and hands him a professional business card. Ryoichi asks if he is a salesman. The boy tells him that he has come to confirm his transfer to another world immediately. Before he can even blink, they are instantly teleported to the very heart of a huge forest. This is the world of Starlia, he says calmly with a quiet smile. There really are monsters here, for example, these funny-looking slimes. The slime tries to draw aggro, but the boy in the suit simply destroys it with a magic blast. He tells Ryoichi that magic is simple and offers to give him training. Our boy really manages to learn a spell called Magic Hole on the very first try. The next day they sit down for a real strategy meeting. Ryoichi understands this is a one-way trip and he will not return to Earth. If he refuses the deal, this guy will simply erase the entire event from his memory. But here the cheat catalog is involved. He gets a choice among 4 godly cool abilities to choose those with which he will start a new life. He can master legendary techniques without any of the routine training. There are even divine gifts in the inventory. It seems the supreme god is literally tying tools for the chosen ones. The one in the suit tells him to choose his perks and promises to return in 3 days. Ryoichi looks at his old shop one last time. He visits his old school and local shrines to quietly say goodbye in a whisper. He grabs the last bowl of ramen at his favorite place. The shop owner recognizes him and says, "Long time no see, elder brother." The old man gives him some general advice on how to take the next step in life. While Ryoichi chews free gyoza, he realizes life is shorter than he thought. He walks through the flickering streets of the city, inhaling its mood. This is the last farewell to his old reality. He stands on a hill overlooking the city and waits for change. Then the horizon is split by a giant flash of light. He signed the contract. God tells him that he has no specific mission, so he can just live as he wants. Ryoichi chooses production-type abilities because he truly understands how tools work. He decides to make his collection unique. He jumps into a new world and immediately encounters several smaller wolves. He unfolds the appraisal of his god class and realizes he will be broken now if he is not careful. The pack lunges at him without any hesitation. One wolf actually bites into his shoulder, a complete bloody massacre. "I will not die," he shouts, activating his magic. He shoots the wolves and starts diving into the fight as the rhythm of the clash goes. The body of his god class instantly begins to regenerate those deep wounds. He finishes off the leader with a powerful kick to the head. He levels up and his physical characteristics instantly increase. He takes the loot and checks his universal map. He is just around the corner, near a place called East Village. At the gate, a guard stops him and demands to see documents. Ryoichi is not there, so he has to pay 3 silver coins to enter. Fortunately, all his Japanese assets were converted into local currency for 10 million yen. That's a huge pile of silver coins. He enters the village, and the locals stare. He is covered in wolf's blood. He needs to find an inn and settle there before he attracts even more attention. A sweet girl named Marie meets him at the inn and comments on his clothes. He speaks that language perfectly, but realizes he still can't write a script. He takes a fresh set of work clothes from the item box. The family at the inn is stunned by his high-level storage ability. Marie thinks his modern detergent has a strange, rare, and expensive scent. He remembers his other gifts, like a container capable of pulling items from Earth. He even has a multiplication box synchronized with a huge warehouse filled with supplies. This production build already looks completely broken. To obtain an official ID, he needs to join the guild. He goes to the Carpenter Guild to register. The administrator gives him an examination ticket for 1 gold coin. She warns him the passing rate is only 40. The duck supervisor named Gio mocks his thin hands and calls him a loser. For the first trial, he needs to split a log with a huge axe. The axe is incredibly heavy and hard to lift. He decides to use the weight to his advantage and swings sharply, striking straight down. He perfectly splits the log, surprising the masters. Now for the second test, he needs to carve the log with precision. It is slow work with only a regular chisel. He asks if he can use his own tools for the work. He activates his item box and the crowd erupts with excitement. He pulls out a modern electric drill. He remembers how his father once long ago gave him his first drill. The sound of the drill drives everyone in the guild crazy. The guildmaster watches everything carefully, impressed by this magical weapon. Ryoichi passes the test in record time. The master reveals the exam was actually a hidden magical trial. Most people resort to physical enhancement magic, but Ryoichi used pure technology. The axe he used before was actually a gift from the gods, a present from the god of wood. Kokus, the guild master, hands him an official guild card. Now he is officially part of the team. Gio grabs him and says he will take care of him in the workshop. They arrange a giant welcome party and start gulping down drinks in a volley. Ryoichi even defeats the master in arm wrestling, and both are drunk. He is finally praised for his skill by people who respect him. He knows choosing Starlia is the right decision for his life. But for now, he enjoys his new home. The god says that in this world death is always near. Above the clouds at the very height, a mysterious girl cries and begs for help. She is in the mines. In despair, she needs someone to save her sister. Ryoichi hones his logging skills together with the team. Master Gio is impressed by how quickly our guy is leveling up. Gio tells them to watch how a professional works while he prepares a heavy strike. Instead of the tree crushing everything around, a massive stone hand catches it. He explains that this is earth magic. It softened the blow and allowed a safe landing. Gio admits that he is not a teacher and orders Ryoichi to look for a magic book. He examines the local shop run by a cute cat girl. She pulls out a suspicious-looking book on advanced dark magic. Ryoichi is wildly delighted to come across such a rare find in a shop in the middle of nowhere. Returning at the end, he begins training in basic wind magic. After one unfortunate adventure, he decides to try practicing all the attributes. Even during breaks, he sweats from the effort to master fire magic. He wants to become self-sufficient and strong as quickly as possible. He tears through the forest at speeds that simply cannot be real. This 10x growth rate is truly broken for his agility stats. He treats the wolf mob pack as if it were just trash. His movements are so light, as if he is playing on a map with low gravity. Gio says the true measure of masculinity is to visit the shrine of the giant warriors. He reaches the entrance, where he is blocked by giant stone sentinels standing guard. Ryoichi enters the ruins and tries to understand what all the fuss is about. He finds even more statues guarding the center of the sanctuary. The stone monument mentions a magical test for controlling the armor, a testing ground. All of this is so worn out and outdated that it no longer works properly. Suddenly he hears a strange rumble. It comes from beneath the floor. He finds a torn electrical circuit and decides to fix it, relying on his previous knowledge from that world. Our guy starts tinkering, as if trying to win a master's competition. The power turns on again, and the main console lights up with flames. Secret stairs dissolve and beckon him into the darkness. He lowers his head and hears something incredibly large moving in the shadows. He casts a fire spell to light the way, and immediately sees a giant golem staring intently at him. This absolute giant looms over him, raising a huge sword. The troublemaker swings, and Ryoichi must either move or be shot flat on the monitor. He barely manages to dodge as the blade shatters on the stone floor. When the exit is blocked, he begins to continuously pour rapid-fire magic. He releases a scattered strike to find a vulnerability. The golem is unharmed and continues to walk through the flames. He responds with a kick, such a blunt jump that it almost turns Ryoichi into paste. He refuses to give up and jumps back into the fight again. Even his physical strikes do not cause any damage to this tank. It turns out he has already died twice and is barely holding on in this world. He stays in the game, constantly using his god-class clone jutsu. Each new clone is weaker than the previous one, so it has little time left. The assessment shows this level 38 beast has magical nullification. He decides to stake everything against the forbidden dark magic book. He begins shouting a spell to summon the power of the abyss. A swarm of skulls and dark energy explodes from his hands. The shockwave tears a huge hole right through the middle of the golems. The giant soldier finally collapses and crumbles into a pile of ruins. He thinks he has won, but in a moment he starts coughing up blood. And the recoil curse from that dark magic is just incredibly fierce. The screen flashes and a cute AI girl appears on it, just beginning initialization. Ryoichi goes crazy because she looks too high-tech for this world. She begins configuring the system for ordinary household use. She completes the registration and names him the new administrator. Suddenly, he is surrounded from all sides by a whole squad of giant soldiers. Our guy thinks that he is about to be sent back to the lobby. The AI drops security to 0, and the golems treat him like a boss. She examines his condition and recommends using a hidden skill. He activates God-class adaptation to neutralize the curse of dark magic. The pain finally subsides, and he thanks her for the life-saving throw. She shows that the sanctuary was actually a hangar for magical vehicles. He realizes that she has been alone all this time, and he feels pain for her. Ryoichi promises to return, so she will no longer be lonely. When he leaves the room, the AI girl gives him a genuine, sincere smile. He creaked through the front door to look at the new trophy. He stops as if rooted to the spot as soon as he sees what is hidden inside. This is a giant high-tech, magical armored transport. This absolute beast is already ready to tear apart the next map. Ryoichi approaches on a literally gigantic robot once found in the shrine. Our guys here read the ancient manual as if it were an ordinary guide. Gio says that he has to keep and protect it because only he has the craftsman intuition to fix it. He immediately gets to work and starts repairing the equipment, doing it with real mechanical skill. Mari appears together with her friend Nasir. He thinks this mech looks like a giant steel spider. Nasir keeps the overall stuff under control and worries. Ryoichi seems to be pulling another all-nighter at work. Actually, they came to invite the team on a trip to the Door of Village. Nasir has already planned the party's schedule for a 4-month rotation. These guys are completely hooked on the opportunity to protect some beautiful women on the road. 4 days later, the squad officially moves through the forest. A powerful horde of trash mobs sets an ambush on the group. They hadn't even set up camp yet. The geocharge crashes into the tank while the rear line prepares to pull aggro. Mari tries to help with the frying pan, but these monsters are clearly no match. Her strength is immediately crushed by theirs. Ryoichi crashes in and attacks, drilling through the monster plant to protect her. Their giant rabbits crawl ahead, and deer approach stealthily from the shadows. Our guy decides to end the fight early and releases a huge burst of lightning magic. The entire mob crowd instantly gets roasted, and they have no idea how he became a top-level mage. He explains that the victory over the golem actually gave him a huge level boost. Not to fall behind, Master Gio unleashes heavy earth magic and finishes off the rest. Thanks to Ryoichi's drawer item box, they can finally relax and eat properly at the camp. But the standard rations are complete nonsense, so our guy decides to cook. He grabs some Caesar dressing from the inventory and assembles a gourmet salad. The girls take only one bite, and their minds just explode with flavor. Even Master Gio, who can't stand vegetables, pulls the salad into himself as if he were a hungry beast. Nasir realizes that this garnish is a real goldmine and wants to sell it immediately. She literally sniffs profit, while Ryoichi just wants to keep the peace. Finally, they reach the gates of Devas, the famous gnome village. Ryoichi is impressed by how skillfully the gnomes keep their infrastructure in order. Mari heads to her uncle's, while the rest of the company scatters in different directions. Gio hands over the calculation of the cost of wood to the local carpentry workshops department. The gnomes desperately search for firewood. They have stumbled upon a new vein of magical ore. Since the delivery was so fast, the squad gets some free time to walk around the city. The brothers try to pack a date while Ryoichi chooses the path of a lone player. He checks the universal map and immediately heads to the Adventurers Guild. The appraiser nearly lost consciousness when he saw the loot that Ryoichi brought. He cannot believe that the recruit has phantom golem materials, so he begs him to join the guild. Ryoichi turns around and walks away with a new ID card, ready to start serious grinding. Outside, he sees a young girl begging the miners to take her to work for anything. The local shopkeeper tells him her father died in a landslide, and now she is burdened with a huge debt. If she does not pay it off soon, she will be sold into slavery. The debt is 250 gold coins, and no one wants to risk responsibility for a child in the mines. It is a tragedy because her father's death revealed a new magic, Orvin. She even tried to pass the masonry test herself, but she lacked the physical stats. Seeing her struggle makes Ryoichi remember how lonely he was after his father's death. He cannot just walk away and go straight to the masonry guild doors. He inspects the miner's site and knows exactly what he has to do. The poor girl is already losing hope as the sun begins to set and only a moment remains until the deadline. Ryoichi finds her at the last moment and says he has been looking for her for a long time. He invites her to go to the mines with him as a team. He shows her his new bricklayer guild card and promises to save her from debt. The guard meets our guy and his companion near mine number 6. He reviews the guild card and asks if this is their first time seeing the legendary Merchant. Merchant begins to sob. Without Ishikawa's help, her family would have been completely destroyed. The guard sympathizes with her over the death of her father and that deadly debt. In the tunnels, it's a complete PvP zone. The guys fight for every piece of land. These random rag mobs scream madly about who cut in line. Ishikawa and Mari just watch as the chaos unfolds. The guard warns them that these are ruthless, bloodthirsty players who hunt for easy money. Mary broke out in a sweat from fear. They will have to fight for every share of magical ore. Her guy pulls out a cracked, all-powerful map that updates the terrain in real time. Mayor can't believe it. The map actually moves like a minimap in a high-budget RPG. She uses her father's research to precisely calculate a huge hidden vein deeper in the mine. Ishikawa is stunned by her high INT stats. The only problem, they will have to dig through a rope that doesn't even exist yet. Mara asks about tools, and Ishikawa casually pulls a pickaxe from the inventory. But an ordinary pickaxe won't handle this world for the first raid. He opens his item box and selects the craziest equipment in his collection. With a deafening roar, a giant mechanical creature appears in the middle of the cave. It's an absolute monster, drills and arms everywhere. Mara is completely stunned by the impressive dimensions of the machine. Ishikawa explains that he found this magical armored car in some ancient ruins. He jumps into the pilot's seat and checks the systems while Mur is still buffering. He orders her to sit down and hold on tight. Mur screams and the drills spin so fast that their pressure is enough to level a mountain. They shatter the stone as if it were wet paper. Mara is in panic. She asks what the hell is going on and how did this happen at all. Ishikawa is delighted because the machine also reinforces the tunnel while moving. After the initial shock, Mur is completely exhausted. The adrenaline has already run out. Our guy tells her to just relax and take a break. It will take about an hour to get to the destination, so it's time for a snack. He pulls out a box of donuts and a whole schedule of food. Mara has never even heard of a donut. Her stomach is growling, but she tries to pretend she is not starving to death. She begins to feel guilty because her sister Moa came back home and is suffering. A flashback shows her father is working himself to exhaustion to save Moa. Ishikawa realizes the poor girl is stuck in a loop of self-blame. Suddenly, the car starts making strange noises and immediately stops with a crunch. They ran out of fuel right in the middle of the excavations. Mary thinks she is cursed and that she drags everyone down with her. She begins to break down and apologize for being a jinx. Ishikawa recalls her own tragedy, how she lost her father in a store. He orders her to never let go of an outstretched helping hand and places his palms on the console. The car roars and comes to life, bursting with a wave of energy. Mary is shocked. A chunk of metal is moving again. Ishikawa manually pours fuel into the vehicle, using his own huge manifold. They drove into a super strong rock, a solid, continuous bedrock that stops them in place. This is a full-force attack. He focuses his magic into one point and breaks through the barrier with a strike. The wall explodes, revealing a huge cave filled with a radiant magical mine. They are lucky jackpot in the pocket. Mara is ready to start farming. Ishikawa hands her a helmet and says, "Safety first." Returning to the city, the debt collector tells the mayor, time is up. He says the contract is indisputable, and he needs 250 gold coins right now. Mary slams a pile of gold on the table with a crash, and the guy freezes speechless. He can't believe she didn't take the money and didn't disappear. Even someone as ruthless as him is touched by the sensitivity of our boy. He offers a prayer to the god of money for their success. Outside, Mare tries to find words to thank Ryuichi for saving her life. He even adds another share of loot for her future expenses. Mur leads him to her house so that her sister can also thank him. Inside, completely empty. She had to sell every family heirloom just so the electricity wouldn't be cut off. She calls her sister Moa to come meet their savior. Moa wakes up and hears the impossible news. The deceased is no longer there. But when she looks up, Ishikawa realizes her illness is much more serious than just a fever. Marin Moa almost shines when she realizes they no longer need to be separated. Her boy decides it's time to put Mana to work and tries to apply some restorative magic. He splashes water on Moa's heel to heal her wound. But the curse is immediately suppressed by dark energy. Ryuichi understands his basic heals won't be enough here. He pulls up the assessment for his god class and sees this is not some random disease. Moa's status shows a progressive cursed seal. It literally eats her from the inside. UHG realizes this is exactly like the curse he got when tanking at the altar of the giant soldier. He opens his dark magic book but finds only offensive spells. He decides to get creative and pours the stick directly on the curse. Moa looks stunned as dark mana begins swirling around her. Ryuichi understands he is effectively redirecting aggro to the death curse. Suddenly, a huge shadow monster with many eyes bursts out of the poor girl's body. The curse is finally dealt with in the most metal way possible. Moa gasps for air as the heavyweight finally lifts her soul. But Ryuichi will have to swallow retribution. He coughs up blood as the curse transfers to him. Thanks to this, he activates his God-class adaptation technique and takes the hits like a true benchmark unit. The dark mist finally dissipates, and Moa slowly sinks into a peaceful sleep. Mara is in complete shock when she sees that the curse mark has completely disappeared. The curse is gone, and Ryuichi throws another heal water to restore her HP to maximum. Magic finally takes control and begins stitching her body back together. Moa wakes up refreshed, no fever, no pain. She jumps back and forth as if she has a permanently activated speed boost. Mayor cannot believe that her sister has actually recovered and immediately bursts into tears. For her, Moa's recovery means too much. She simply cannot bear it. The sisters cover our guy with huge hugs of gratitude. Remedri's belly decides right now to draw attention to itself and take the aggro. He takes out kitchen utensils and starts preparing high-quality food for the squad. He serves them his favorite meatballs, udon. Mo mercilessly squeezes out his bowl and even asks for seconds. Even the mayor cannot believe how delicious the food is. They finish the entire pot, but Ryuichi says he can duplicate the ingredients whenever they want. He even throws them some sister donuts for dessert. Mayor breaks down in tears and sobs because he cannot believe how warmly and kindly he is treated by them. Ryuichi just looks at her and understands how much they have already had to endure. He admits in his old world, children had to be protected, and he truly envies their unity. He tells them that there is no one else to return to family. Moa does not accept this and declares that she will get married so they can be a family. She clings to him and decides, let her simply be his little sister. Yuichi meets his new sweet little sister, and Mara immediately becomes wildly flustered. It gets late, so he decides it's time to return to the tavern. The mayor stops him instantly, not letting him leave. She asks if he plans to stay in the village longer. Yuichi tells her that he is currently on the road and might leave tomorrow. The mayor drops a real bombshell and asks her to accompany him on the journey. Our guy tries to warn her his path is too dangerous. Marin insists she wants to be useful and repay him for everything. Moa peeks out from behind a tree with her plush animal. She wails she doesn't want her Oni-chan to leave and leave her behind. She holds on to him like a last straw. Ryuichi understands he cannot just leave these two defenseless orphans alone. He runs through his second life in his head and decides it's time to take a step forward. He asks if they are really ready for the dangerous life of adventure. He lifts Moa in his arms and announces that from today they are officially a family. The next morning, the party crashes back into the shop again. Ryuichi arrives and tells the team he has something to talk about. The matter is too important. Master Gio simply collapsed from too much alcohol at the party. The girls come in and Mare introduces herself, saying she is Ryuichi's new family now. The whole store literally froze from the sudden news. They discuss logistics and the huge taxes the girl's family owes. They set off to the magistrate's residence to settle the paperwork. Yuichi pulls off a cool trick. With a bang, he throws a pile of gold on the table right at the clerk. He pays taxes in advance for the next 10 years. He tells Maria that was money from her father's research, so she has nothing to worry about. Mayor finally calls him Ryoichi Niasen, and immediately his whole face flushes with a blush. Maria and Nasir catch them on the street and think that he is on a date. Ryuichi clarifies the misunderstanding and explains the new situation with his sister. The girls get acquainted and introduce themselves with the name Ishikawa. Those ladies immediately start pampering the cute sisters. They notice that the girls' clothes are torn and forcibly drag them to makeup to redo them. Moa gets a cute girly look, and Mira chooses a lively, light look. Ryuichi is eventually assigned to carry the loot in a sack. Moa notices a bookstore and pulls everyone inside to look at picture books. The clerk immediately gives them a guild discount because they are members. Yuichi begins to look for specialized magical books for himself. While Ryuichi grabs an advanced scroll with lightning, Moa finds a cool illustrated book. Mai and Nasir comment that he is already behaving like a real older brother. The next day, Ryuichi takes out his tools and repairs the roof of Valor House. After the repair, Moa demands that he read her the new book. A story about an elven princess and an evil wizard. The hero uses a magical device that looks exactly like a chainsaw. Mare explains that the kingdom and the book are actually a real place. Yuichi realizes the main hero of this story was probably a teleporter from Earth. He lowers his gaze and sees both girls have fainted and fallen on him. Ryuichi relaxes with a glass and talks to a photo of his late father. He is finally happy to have a family he can protect in this new world. The scene opens, a huge beast looms over our couple, immediately setting the tone for the upcoming chaos. Ryoichi finally returns to the group, and he is leading a small mare behind him. He enters the tavern and throws out in a carefree tone, "I'm back to the squad." Gio is immediately targeted for missing the party and not showing up all night. The mood sharply changes when Ryoichi explains that he adopted these orphans and now they are his sisters. Suddenly, the stern master turns into a caring Uncle Gio. Ryoichi drops a bombshell. They are going to the village E. Dio loses his mind. His most promising student is actually going to leave the guild. He hits him with the phrase, "I'm disappointed," to hide how much it really hurts. Gio snaps and walks away in anger, leaving the mood completely broken. Moe is afraid she said something wrong, but Ryoichi knows everything must be fixed. The brothers remind him Gio is just a big quiet guy who is lonely. The farewell party is in full swing, but the seat at the head of the table is empty. Gio did not appear, but sent a farewell gift through his guise. This is a battle axe blade of high quality, made by a legendary dwarf blacksmith. Ryoichi catches the hint the master is still watching his progress. Morning acceleration, and the team officially sets off on the road. The girls are burning to see what kind of place E's village is. Ryoichi takes on all the work, pulling the kids in the cart. Moa enjoys every moment, comparing this trip to a magical armored mecha. Ryoichi looks at his new axe, and he wishes he could thank Gio personally. Suddenly, he tells everyone to shut up. He has a dangerous feeling that tingles. A pack of trash mobs has completely besieged them in the forest. These strange creatures, resembling badgers, are looking for easy prey. Ryoichi prepares his lightning magic, and Gio decides it's time for a loud trick. With a single blinding flash, the master prepares to put an end to this. The entire rocky wall collapses, burying the monsters under complete defeat. Ryoichi is stunned by the colossal destructive power of his master. The group continues their journey until the sun begins to set. They decide to camp at an already established site. Everyone is busy, setting up tents and everything necessary. But Mari has a bad feeling, and she pulls Ryoichi aside. She noticed huge tracks and nearby a pile of beastly bones. Ryoichi realizes these prints are too large for any ordinary monster. He tries to warn Gio, but the old man continues to behave like a complete freak. They pass by each other silently, each stubbornly unwilling to give in. Others think they are safe because it's just an ordinary adventure or a camp stop. They even start teasing Ryoichi about his new little sisters. Night falls and the camp finally quiets down. Mary is still awake, studying the maps intently without looking away. She sees the terrain on the magical map literally shifting right before her eyes in real time. Something colossal is terraforming the mountain as it rolls straight toward them. She raises the alarm and frantically wakes everyone up. But where have the heavyweights Gio and Ryoichi gone? They are nowhere to be found. Ryoichi is actually on patrol now, standing guard at night. He prays that Mary's desire turns out to be just a mistake. Then the griffin suddenly swoops down from the sky to prove him wrong. Meanwhile, Joe drinks alone in the tall grass. Moa finds him and calls to her uncle Gio. She warns him that a giant monster is coming towards them. Gio tells her not to worry, because you can handle any threat. She asks the real question, do you hate Ryoichi? He admits, just angry, because he hasn't had time to teach his student enough yet. Suddenly griffins dive into the sky and bomb their position. Gio pulls out axes and orders Moa to hide immediately. Ryoichi arrives just in time to back up his master. Gio easily deals with the flying harmful creature, but he knows this is only the beginning. One of the monsters retreats back into the forest thicket. Strange sounds roll through the trees and echo in the silence. Gio heard a scream and realized the situation just became deadly dangerous. He orders Ryoichi to grab Moa and flee together with the villagers. Ryoichi refuses to leave his master and fight alone. Gio understands they need a diversionary maneuver to buy time and let the other escape. Something watches them from the bloody leaves. A colossal bear emerges and devours the griffin as if it were a light snack. Ryoichi unleashes his god-tier appraisal to check the boss's stats. This is Shoutbear King Absolute Combat Titan level 68. Gio recognizes him as the legendary Mountain Guardian. He begins to read his last will and tells Ryoichi where the hideout is. Gio powers up his magic, preparing for the final suicidal sortie into battle. He shouts for Ryoichi to protect his family and move out. Ryoichi has no choice. He drags Moa and Bolt into the forest. The moon becomes a witness to the beginning of a tragic confrontation. Ryoichi returns to the camp with a gloomy expression on his face. Other guild members want to help, but everyone understands this is a death sentence. Ryoichi returns to Mary because he needs a colossal favor. He seats a little girl in the pilot's chair of his secret weapon. He converted the magic walker into a heavy-duty transport container. He hands her the manual and says it's time to take the wheel. The giant machine rises to its feet, carrying the entire all on itself. Everyone is shocked by the incredible speed of this magical vehicle. The magical girl pours her magic into the fuel tank so it doesn't stall. They realize that Ryoichi is not on board the main transport. He has his own machine and a master who needs to be saved. Turning into the forest, Gio pressed against a tree and slowly bled from his wounds. The Bear King loomed over him, ready to finish the job. The beast lunged forward sharply, opening its jaws to their full width. Suddenly, Ryoichi flies his vehicle straight into the bear's face. He shouts that he will protect his family with all his might. A Ryoichi stands in front with that axe, and the magical armor provides heavy support. This mechanical monster is the only thing standing between them and total party wipe. Ryoichi realizes he is basically a level 24 weakling trying to solo a level 68 raid boss. The Screaming Bear King is a true mountain of muscle and top-tier stats. It lunges forward and, swinging its giant claws, strikes with such force it could shatter stone. The mech manages to catch the blow, but the pressure is just unreal. Ryoichi watches in horror as the bear begins to gain the upper hand over the machine, increasing its strength and pulling the raw arm. Cabin windshield cracks like a spiderweb from the sheer insane force of this struggle alone. Master Gio lies broken and bleeding, while the bear shifts its target to Ryoichi. This beast knows no cold, and now it is desperate to finish off to claim the kill. Ryoichi barely manages to push out of the armor as the bear's claw tears through it, and his desperate counterstrike shreds everything in half. "I'm fine," he gasps hoarsely, thanking the absolute behemoth Master Gio's axe, which he was given. Dio is amazed. After such a clash, there isn't a single scratch on the blade. Ryoichi knows physical attacks work, so he just needs to buy some time. He fires a god-level copy of his technique and covers the entire polygon with a swarm. The clones burst inside and exploded relentlessly, cutting through the bear's thick hide from every angle. Gio goes into full rampage when suddenly a whole line of his followers appears before him. "Let's heal while we can," says Ryoichi, putting escape above all this noise. Gio looks like a complete noob. His own student is carrying him. Suddenly, the bear pulls out a fire-breathing move from its own moveset. Ryoichi throws himself into the flames to save Master Gio, while the fire turns everything in its path to ashes. The magical armor completely burns up and explodes from the shockwave. Having no other choice, Ryoichi decides to merge his clones with dark magic. He pulls out a grimoire and begins whispering spells from the very depths of the abyss. But the bear is too fast and heads through his distraction without any breaks. A giant shadow looms over our guy as the monster instantly closes the distance. In a bloody burst of speed, the bear grabs and clutches Ryoichi's torso directly. His left arm is completely torn off, blood splatters fly like a fountain. Ryoichi shudders from shock and desperately prays for his god-level regeneration to finally activate. Consciousness fades, he wheezes as he feels his life bar drop to 0. He collapses into a puddle of his own blood, curled up as if he could be folded. Master Joe can only watch in absolute despair as his apprentice dies. The bear looms over the body, ready to turn Ryoichi into a snack. "Are you going to kill me, freak?" Gio shouts and lunges forward as if death is on his back. The bear simply pushes the old man away like an annoying fly. Gio throws himself into the debris he is thrown about, coughing up blood after the blow. When Ryoichi approaches the end, he remembers how close death is in this world. The bee begins to gnaw the severed hand right in front of him. A terrible sight, the bear finishes off its prey right in the middle of the battle. Ryoichi's fingers begin to twitch as soon as his broken region finally activates. When the bear lunges for a deadly bite, Ryoichi prepares a spell up close. In the monster's mouth, open to the bones, a huge magical circle flares up right between the entrails. He bursts with powerful lightning magic, strikes the beast from inside out. Ryoichi abruptly stood up his hand, literally stitched itself back in seconds. He understands, if the bear bit him in the head, it would be the end. King Bear Shouter is already stunned and looks very vulnerable. "How dare you do this to my master?" Ryoichi roars, grabbing his axe. He lunges upward, lightning hisses around the heavy blade. He rises with anger like a god and throws himself straight at the neck. The axe cuts deep, splattering blood everywhere as he delivers a powerful critical strike. "Show yourself to death," he shouts, finishing off the boss once and for all. Master Gio cannot believe his eyes when he sees the legend fall. The headless body of King Bear finally splashes in the mud and falls to the side. Gio is completely stunned. The king of the mountain is defeated. Ryoichi stands towering amid the flames, looking like a true main hero. Gio suddenly lunges forward and asks what the hell happened to his missing arm. That original arm is rolling somewhere, and Ryoichi dryly says to his master. Ryoichi deadpans to his master. Gio has a complete crisis trying to understand these broken abilities. Ryoichi apologizes for showing such a disgusting and cursed appearance. He looks at his new arm and admits, this whole story is quite strange. Gio simply bursts out laughing at the incredible absurdity of what is happening. "The details don't matter now, we can arm wrestle again. Gio, cheer up." He calls Ryoichi his proud student and the savior of the village. Rescue forces finally arrive, and Ryoichi finally feels at least a little peace. Guild members enter the fight, arriving in yet another set of magical armor. They explain, first they evacuated the villagers to safety, and only then returned to help. His sisters sob uncontrollably, happy that their brother is alive. The entire remaining crew froze upon seeing the size of the dead bear. Ryoichi tries to explain the situation with his hand, while the girls hold onto him tightly. He freezes, staring at the bloody stain on the ground, and thinks about how to cover his tracks. Gio covers him with a blanket, then tells the others that he used earth magic to bury the limb. "Master Gio, thank you," says Ryoichi as everything finally quiets down. The news of the Bear King's defeat spreads through the local taverns like wildfire. The traveler with bald tassel ears secretly hears rumors about the legendary killing. She leans closer and with a barely noticeable smile asks the locals to tell her everything. Dawn covers the village, and the morning light spreads through the quiet streets. Sun rays fall into the empty room where our guy finally dozes off, recovering from that crazy boss battle. Ryoichi wakes up all bandaged and suddenly sees the whole village is hiding right outside the window, looking at him as if he were a rare gachapole. The villagers are dying to thank their savior, but Mari must remain the bodyguard so he can finally rest properly. Nassel is already here, like a girl boss, trying to sell priority passes to the villagers just to catch a glimpse of the hero. Ryoichi lowers his gaze and realizes Maya and Moa have completely taken over his bed while he was away. He is confused because there are literally enough beds for everyone in the room. Moa is already at full energy, jumping up to shower him with morning hugs. Mia behaves like a complete cinnamon roll, blushing so much her eyes close and hiding behind a pillow because she fell asleep watching him sleep. Our guy finally comes out, and rumors have already turned him into a local legend for having taken down that shout bear. At the bottom of the stairs, he notices a beast woman with a katana like someone pulled her straight from a high-rank raid. She has the sharp eyes of a main heroine. Ryoichi is all sweaty because he thinks she is about to draw aggro on him. The girls run out to say good morning, and the aura of the warriors completely changes together. She gives them a soft smile, and Ryoichi suddenly realizes she is actually just super calm. The waitress at the tavern, Marissa, catches up to him and pours out huge thanks for saving her life. The entire village lined up to pay tribute to the new power plant in the city. He was left with a mountain of loot: fresh eggs, meat, and vegetables. Ryoichi decides to put his survival skills to use and asks to take over the kitchen. Moe and I rush to help while the villagers watch as he uses spices they have never even seen before. He serves a legendary fluffy omelet as if it were a five-star masterpiece. Nearby sits a warrior of the beastfolk tribe, and her sharp sense of smell already catches the scent of those other worlds. Ryoichi notices her lingering nearby and offers her a plate. The girls invite her to join the party, and she can't resist and says yes. She is clearly not used to being part of a group and looks a bit confused. She takes one bite and seems to ascend to another dimension because it is simply incredibly delicious. She has completely lost her mind over the hidden flavor in the sauce. Ryoichi explains that it is just soy sauce, and she is glowing because it reminds her of the tastes from her homeland. She finally introduces herself Coco Youth Jeopardius, a wandering adventurer. Ryoichi shows her his adventurer card, but she is a complete minus E rank, practically the bottom of the barrel. He admits before all this he was just a master or an electrician. Coco does not buy it. She says an ordinary master cannot simply handle a mountain lord like Shoutbear alone. She says he leaves all his misses open, but it is his gentle mood that truly confuses her. Suddenly Master Geo enters and looks as if he is about to set off on a dungeon crawl. He came to borrow Ryoichi for urgent matters that cannot wait. Geo spots Coco and immediately recognizes her stance the level of a high-class fencer. She admits she is from Kuren Ryu, and Geo tells Ryoichi to keep the guards ready. Ryoichi thinks she is just a good person, but Geo warns him. A woman who travels alone as a swordswoman always has some deep story behind her. They arrive at Kegel to meet with the village leadership. Ryoichi meets the head of Coleus and the guild leader Kokis. The chief immediately becomes serious and explains, a Shabater going beyond its territory means something catastrophic is happening in the mountains. They recall a maritime disaster during the crossing that happened 20 years ago. Back then, some non-native monster swam across the ocean and stole Shoutbear's territory. It was not just any monster, a pair of twin dragons. Ryoichi is stunned. He just heard that literal dragons exist, and as a newcomer at that. These two twin dragons brought a calamity that nearly wiped the entire island off the map. The Duke had to raise every soldier and every high-ranking adventurer for a desperate hunt. In the end, they managed to defeat the beast, but the human death toll was shocking. Geo drops a bombshell. The dragons were a couple that had mated. Once a shell was found in the nest, meaning someone survived. The chief orders Ryoichi to deliver an urgent letter to Baron Errol to warn him. It is a multi-day journey through dangerous lands, so time cannot be wasted. Geo's intuition screams that this is not just a false alarm. Ryoichi hesitated. He wondered if a traveler like him should carry such a heavy burden on his shoulders. But the masters tell him that he is a respected hero and the most reliable guy they have. Our guy finally gets it, agrees to the mission to save the village. Our Ryoichi is already trying to escape, while Mari goes crazy over his injury. He tears off those bandages as if it's nothing at all. The devil suddenly becomes pumped to the point of muscle trembling and claims that the recovery speed is like a cheat code. Instead of resting, he gets to work, hammering wood while the twins watch him craft. He is actually building his own rocket stove bath for the squad. Our guy explains, a hot bath is the best way to relieve fatigue after hard work. In a moment, the project is officially completed and ready for use. The twins want to be involved, but since they have no gear, Ryoichi offers them a few t-shirts as homemade swimsuits. He pulls out a few shirts from his old world with an incredibly precise and funny logo. Coco picks up the consequences and starts shouting about how indecent it all is. Our guy tries to explain that it's all a big misunderstanding, but she has already disappeared into the distance. When the drama calms down, he tells the twins that he is flying to Errol for a job with the highest priority. The girls completely froze at the sudden news of yet another departure. They again refuse to stay behind after that crazy shooting with the carrier bear. The squad sets off on the road together with Maya and Moe, who pilot their custom magical armored suit. Ryoichi realizes his physical parameters have grown incredibly strong as soon as the level sharply jumped. Suddenly, he picks up a hidden presence lurking behind them in the bushes. Coco emerges from the shadows, admitting that she couldn't hide from his divine footwork. She stands her ground, holding her hand on the hilt. The tension is thick. Two in the forest freeze and stare each other down. She apologizes for spying, admits she's simply a fan of his gear and raw physical strength. She explains that women-beast samurai like her are usually feared and avoided. Ryoichi pays no attention to this and tells her that strong lone wolves are the true peak of aesthetics. Coco cannot help but laugh at his oddly mannered nobility, which is magnetic. She decides to join the party right there to test what he is capable of. The race has already started. Ryoichi and Coco rush through wild thickets at a crazy speed. Coco is truly shocked. A person can keep pace with her natural agility. Our guy asks if she can keep up while they accelerate the rhythm. Even at maximum acceleration, the magical armor falls behind these two. Finally, they reach the waterfall to catch their breath after this long run. Coco admits, during their little race, her knightly pride got the better of her. Suddenly, a huge monster crashes into their paws and grabs the carriage. Coco does not waste a second. She draws her blade to protect the children. She unleashes current-style technique, and the monster is torn to pieces instantly. Minus the bat, it is already completely dismembered, even before it manages to land and hit once. The twins go crazy over how cool their new companion is. Ryoichi plays it cool and says that his only real talent is broken healing and a strong, tank-like body. He compares his regeneration to the passive ability of a lizardman. A terrible gleam appears in Coco's eyes, and she asks him to fight later. The girls notice these two have become inseparable in a record-short time. The squad sets up camp for the night under clear stars. Morning comes and Ryoichi is already sizzling in the kitchen, preparing breakfast for the whole team. The spread looks so delicious, it will restore anyone's HP to full. In a moment, the carriage is already rolling steadily toward their destination. They discuss the task, the legendary dragon that once terrorized the lands. It seems this beast left behind dangerous offspring. It must be stopped. Coco recalls her father's warning about that catastrophe from childhood. The twins ask about her native town on the eastern islands, beyond the sea. Sounds like a beautiful paradise for beast folk, deadly landscapes and fruits. The journey continues through the plains, as the horses speed up more and more. Ryoichi confides with the map, planning his next move in the region. He admits that he came from a distant place he can never return to. But now, having found this new family, he has no regrets. Above their heads, a huge shadow suddenly cuts through the clouds. The cart keeps rolling forward, unaware of the threat hanging overhead. The dragon begins a furious high-speed dive straight at the squad. A piercing scream cuts through the silence, and panic begins in the compartment. This creature is gigantic and covered in terrifying scales. It makes its move and intercepts the carriage, landing with a loud crash. Ryoichi checks the statistics and sees a level 98 boss with an incredibly large amount of health points. Deadly red energy flares up in the dragon's jaws. Ryoichi orders everyone to immediately stand behind him for protection. He activates god-level cloning technique to create a distraction. Then he layers ice shields and assembles a multi-layered barrier to withstand the blow. The fiery breath strikes as if a nuclear explosion hit. The entire area disappears in a giant wave of black smoke and flames. Everyone survived the explosion, but the shields and clones completely evaporated. Our guy took all the heat and now has severe burns on both arms. They will not flee from this thing, either victory or death. The difference in stats is just insane, and in this fight the dragon has the advantage in the air. Coco asks if he can read the beast's power levels with his abilities. He looks through Coco's statistics and realizes she is actually a high-level combat warrior beastman. She says that this dragon is just a baby, and she is already ready to jump out. Ryoichi notices, when she focuses, her attack power starts glitching and surging. The dragon takes off into the sky and flies in again for another deadly pass. Coco prepares her final move and asks Ryoichi to give her exactly 5 seconds. The dragon roars, looking like a true final boss. Coco looked at our guy and asked him to buy her just 5 seconds. Ryoichi does not retreat against that huge claw. He actually parries the strike, and this is top-level gameplay. The RNG is complete crap, and the dragon grabs it right out of the air. She starts swirling in the air, clutching Ryoichi with her claws as if he were prey. Coco begins to unleash her ultimate oriental. Her stats show her defense is literally 0 while she is concentrating. The beast lunges straight at her. Ryoichi throws out a god-level clone technique to draw the threat onto himself. Ordinary physical and magical attacks deal 0 damage to these scales. He decides to resort to advanced dark magic abyss darkness as a last resort. "I stake my life," he shouts. Dark magic explodes and knocks the dragon back. Ryoichi falls, covered in blood and fading, but inside uplifted. He distracted the attention. Coco seizes the prey by the catch and realizes that her trust was not in vain. She calls him a brave warrior, and her aura flares up. Her gaze is fixed firmly. She prepares her coroner's secret technique. The slanting blade connects everything, and the dragon screams in pain. Ryoichi presses his face into the bushes while the villain retreats. The carriage finally carves out some space for rest. The team realizes the dragon is actually retreating. Coco is completely exhausted, but glad they knocked it out. She warns it's just youthful mischief and it will return. He searches for Ryoichi in the greenery. Our guy lies face down in the dirt, muttering, "I'm not okay." He explains that the dark magic debuff is no joke. He is already mentally exhausted, but Coco is simply happy he is breathing. The peasants thank them, giving MVP for saving the day. Two warriors share a moment. Mai and Moa rushed after them, and sobbing tore their eyes. The whole goal of Ryoichi is only to guarantee that no one else dies. Time to head to the city of Erol. Coco admits this is the first time someone thanked her for her swordsmanship. They finally reach the gates of Erol. The guards panic as soon as they hear about the dragon. Baja's estate is a complete flex. Stuart Carrot opens the letter from the village chief. The Baron is losing his mind over the news about the dragon. He demands proof. Ryoichi opens his item box. He heavily throws a huge dragon scale onto the table. Karath confirms that it is genuine and says it looks like a scale from 2 decades ago. It seems that back then only fragments of eggshell were found. The Baron buys the scale as proof for the army. He sends a petition to the capital for reinforcements. The steward tells them to rest after the long running around. Ryoichi feels great, but Coco is still tense. The army has not moved for several days, and the native village is still in danger. Fortunately, dragons usually nest while they heal. They went to the market, and Moa wants a red apple. Ryoichi decides to prepare candy apples at the end. The girls are elated because they look extremely appetizing. Ryoichi takes a pause by the window. They wrap the treats with them and set off for a walk around the city. Erol looks quite picturesque. The city is gigantic and truly prosperous. They come across a giant temple. Temples bring blessings, and 3 of them mean that a nation can be built. 3 priests recognized by the gods are needed, and only then will it work. Ryoichi wonders what these priests really are when suddenly a boy in a hood falls unconscious. The boy lies unconscious on the ground. Suddenly the boy grabs Ryoichi's hand. In a moment, the little one snatches Moa's candy apple. The little thief begins to inhale the apple. Moa starts to cry her snack was stolen. Ryoichi pulls out a box of sister donuts to fix the mood. Moa was happy, but the eyes of the children in hoods began to glow again. The hungry thief grabs the whole box and greedily starts eating everything to the last piece. Ryoichi boils with rage. This boy makes Moa cry. The boy looks up and says, "I am not a child." She says her name is Malo, that she is 24 years old, and that she is a priestess. The team is shocked. She is really older than Ryoichi. It turns out she is an elf, has lived for 500 years, and is still growing. Ryoichi stared at the little elf who was finishing her food. Restless children must be punished, he says, dragging her to the police station. She insists that the gods chose her as a priestess, but our guide does not believe these excuses. Moa begins to cry over her extremely favorite treats, and the elf finally understands. She grabbed a sweet red gem. The elf Mello was trembling from hunger, and reaching for the Candish thought it was a heavenly blessing. Suddenly, a real waterfall falls on her head as a divine reminder of reality. Coco and Ryoichi stand there wondering if they just witnessed a glitch in the Matrix. Malo completely curled up and begs for forgiveness, bowing to the ground. Moa is true tenderness and offers to make peace with her. They shake hands, and Malo instantly senses hidden potential in this boy. She suggests they all go to the Temple of Monsama to receive a blessing. The line at the temple is too long, but they still manage to reach the priest. Ryoichi receives a mark, but notices no changes in his statistics. Then the priest casts a blessing on the girls. They flare up with equal strength and feel a huge surge of energy. Ryoichi is shocked. Everyone got a buff, but he got nothing. Moa and Mia look like they just maxed out their entire build. Moa is ecstatic with joy no matter how much she polished. She never managed to learn magic. Malo looked at Ryoichi and realized the buff didn't hit him because he was already at the maximum. She feels from him a blessing of divine level 1 that is head and shoulders above what the priest could ever dream of. Ryoichi finally puts the pieces together, why he mastered every magical element from day 1. When they leave, Milo decides now she is on the team. She wants to repay the debt for the food by accompanying them to the next zone. Ryoichi warns her they are literally heading into the dragon's lair. Instead of sweating from tension, she happily demonstrates her healing magic. At the end, this girl eats so much food that she could bankrupt a small country. Mia asks for a magic lesson, while Moa brings a book in the meantime. There is little space for the first edition of Dorad's adventure, and she loses her composure. It turns out to be a legendary rare item from her homeland. Ryoichi watches as they get closer and feels relieved. Team synergy works perfectly. Late that night, someone starts knocking on Ryoichi's door. It's Molo, and Ryoichi definitely wasn't expecting a visit at night. She tries to act out a bit of night crawling for fan service, but he immediately throws her out of the room. She waves it off as if it's a joke and approaches almost face to face with him. She tells him that something mysterious and powerful awakens in her because of him. Her intuition whispers, he has lived a life that makes no sense in this world. She retreats for the night, but vows to return later to bother him again. Ryoichi keeps his reincarnation status a secret so as not to disrupt the immersion. The next morning, they prepare to set off and check on the dragon. He shows his magical armored machine. Essentially, it is a high-tech two-seater. He actually added a carriage to it, and Milo screams at the top of his lungs as they fly at maximum speed. Coco is ready for the smoke, while Malo is just trying not to lose control. They reach the steep mountain trails, where the transport can no longer go. Our guy is impressed by how much energy Moya has for the hike. The guy notices a couple coming out of the nearest pond. This natural hot spring is the perfect place to restore some stamina. Ryoichi tries to enjoy the bath, while the girls chat on the other side of the wall. Everyone comes out refreshed and ready for the final push. Malo savors the milk, while Coco relaxes after the bath. Eventually, they reach the outskirts of the village Aya. And instead of a warm welcome, they are met by black smoke rising into the sky. Ryoichi stands stunned, as his second home is completely engulfed in flames. The village is a complete cemetery, and everyone is shouting at the top of their lungs for their own, who disappeared after the attack. Ryoichi literally falls apart. He underestimated how much damage the dragon could inflict on his new home. Blood is everywhere, but there are no corpses in sight, so there is still a chance that the villagers managed to make a tactical retreat. She almost just stands and looks cute. She casts tracking magic on the bloodstains to find a trail. The trail leads straight to the shrine of the giant soldier, northwest of the village. Our guy runs to the entrance and bumps into Seki's, and Traz they sparkle with joy because they see he was not removed. They explained the dragon was already weakened by a chest wound, and that is why they managed to drive it away. Most of the squad is intact, but the casualty list looks extremely bad. Many are holding on to life. Inside the temple, they come across a makeshift hospital. The survivors huddle together, curled up in a tight pile. Maria is safe, but Fass is in a full coma, completely wrapped in bandages like a mummy. Mary literally breaks down as she explains how he directly blasted the dragon's breath under himself and saved the whole team. Ryoichi tries to spam his healing water spell in a desperate attempt to save his brother. And standard tier magic against dragon burns is useless, like pouring a cup of water on a forest fire. The whole room is filled with people whom that lizard completely tore apart. Ryoichi doesn't let him hit the respawn screen and continuously casts until he runs out of mana. Even the children are crying. The healing just doesn't hold. He takes a couple of steps forward and reminds, true magic is the power to fulfill wishes. She begins casting a huge AoE spell. The room bursts into flames all at once. It's literal healing light that hits every wounded person together. Quickly, he is overtaken by the sensation. The pain evaporates as soon as the light covers him like a current. It's a true miracle because his skin regenerates faster than a bright pink glitch error. He is back on his feet, and the whole team praises Ryoichi for such op allies. Every person in the sanctuary receives a full HP recovery. From chronic joint pain to broken limbs, Milo removed all debuffs for everyone in one go. But the spell was so exhausting that Malo suddenly plunged face first into the floor. Ryoichi panics, but only the giant hunger meter bothers her. She's just jealous of Ryoichi's magic and wants to show off, but now she needs real sugar to recharge. Ryoichi pulls out candies, and she starts devouring them like a true gacha gremlin. Even heavyweights like Master Gio are back in action and feeling better than ever. The village head visits and introduces the man who actually held the defense during the raid. Ryoichi is gnawed by guilt for not bringing the letter earlier, but the leader says he did the job flawlessly. Because of that letter, the Baron sent secret weapons to make sure the number of casualties would be recorded as 0. Meet Mezekis, a modest-looking hooded man who single-handedly repelled the dragon's attack. Ryoichi extends his hand for a handshake, not realizing that he is standing next to a complete monster. The team understands. This is Maeskasa T. Verdi, the legendary rank adventurer from those times. This guy became famous for taking down chimeras one-on-one and has a body as hard as steel. It's hard to believe that this gentle old man is a raid boss on the move. But the dragon is still wandering around and will most likely return to finish the job. It seems this creature holds a fierce grudge against humans and will not stop until everyone is wiped off the face of the earth. Since the temple is too cramped for 500 people, Ryoichi suggests moving the gathering to a better place. He leads them to huge high-tech doors with a familiar triangular emblem. They find a secret underground facility built by the Triangular Magic Technology Company. Most in this world consider this ancient technology junk, but Ryuichi knows this is the best base. Inside complete darkness, but they finally reach the main hub. Ryuichi finds a switch, and it's like turning on the power in a high-tech underground prison. The place is so big that it can fit the entire village and still have room left. Ryoichi manages to fix the power supply, proving that his engineering skills are top-notch. Suddenly, an AI waifu appears on the screen, complaining that he left her on red for 2 million seconds. She grants Ryoichi full master rights so that he can use the storage as he sees fit. Malo is already starting to feel competitive and sprinkles salt on the new girl at the party. This AI doesn't even have a name, and in any anime world, that's a real crime. Little Moa enters the frame and calls her Maiken, and the AI actually accepts this name. The guild master was knocked off his feet by how much property Ryoichi just claimed for himself. Maiken is not just a receptionist, she is responsible for the entire security system. She warns everyone, anyone who tries to cheat or harm, the master will be immediately marked. And if there is no permission, the protective golems will literally annihilate them. Ryoichi starts preparing food and supplies, laying everything out from his item and replication boxes. This will consume a lot of resources, but they need to turn around, preparing for refugees. They bring out a squad of golems to fend off any trash mobs and keep them from the sanctuary. Maeskis is impressed by the technology, but the real threat still is the dragon looming over them. To prepare for the final boss, the legendary traveler offers Ryoichi a sparring match. Ryoichi decided to level up his axe skills while reinforcements have not arrived. Maeskis draws a huge mechanical spear that looks like it belongs in a mecha anime and says, "Please, don't break anything of mine." Ryoichi is ready to fight, but Masakasian boasts truly legendary equipment. This huge harpoon is not just for show. It is a high-class magical tool from Triangular Magic Machine Company. Our guy Ryoichi immediately recognizes this logo. Miskasi admits the spear chimera is a cursed item that was assembled anew after each previous owner. This is a high-risk weapon, one mistake and instant defeat. The old man hasn't even managed to master this beast yet. Coco is in anticipation. Any moment now she will face the living legend. Masakasen sharply deflects her attack as if it is worthless. His speed is insane, considering he wields such a heavy weapon. Coco realizes she is outplayed. Spears are a tough counter against swords. Ryoichi tries to jump in with an axe, but he is immediately tightly grounded with no chance. Masakasen slams him into the ground and stomps, humiliating his amateur skills. Yet the old man still feels some hidden potential within himself. Coco wants to see the true power of the spear and threatens to unleash several techniques in the Gurren style. Masakasen de-escalates, reminding them that this is just training before the dragon raid. Meanwhile, Mela was teaching young mages how not to turn into trash monsters. Moe is more concerned with activation positions than with the efficiency of magic expenditure. They want to help Ryoichi, but Malo keeps everything as simple as possible. Basic magic won't be enough even to hit the dragon. There is little indication that they have learned bodily enhancement to survive in this chaos. This is physics-breaking magic. A spell can turn a mage into a tank. Moa thinks that if she enhances her breasts, Ryoichi will be satisfied, and the teacher gives her a harsh refusal. Under the sanctuary dome, things are getting more and more crowded. A knight named Julius rides up on a horse. He leads a huge invasion squad, 230 people. The general wants a meeting with Ryoichi and Masakusen. Coco winked at him and ordered him to go away like a boss. General Gustel is a complete monster, and he wants the entire reconnaissance report. Ryoichi explains, the dragon is still young, and he has not reached level 100. The general is impressed by Ryoichi's ability to assess. He actually offers our guy a place among the royal knights. Maeskisen considers that for an ordinary civilian, this is an unheard-of wealth. And Ryoichi remains modest, admitting that his combat skills still need refinement. Gustav likes that he is not blinded by ambition. They go outside and see the gathered army. It is a collection of soldiers, each seeking glory. The general stirs them up to finish off the wounded dragon. He promises the title of honorary knight to any elite performers. The soldiers go crazy. Even Masakasen speeds up despite his age. Ryoichi is a little confused among all these elite warriors. Night falls over the sanctuary. Ryoichi returns and finds Maya unconscious, and Moa having not lain down waiting for him on her feet. Koko says that the child was waiting all the time. Ryoichi admits, next to those who considered themselves professionals, he felt like a burden. Life finally becomes calm when they settle into a routine and cook stew. Everyone joins in to keep the vibe at maximum. Malo finds a rare book about non-elemental magic and takes it for further research. A few days pass and it pours like from a bucket while the golems stand guard. Moa runs up to Ryoichi and pleadingly asks for help with his affairs. He sends her to get bread from the back shelves. She incredibly wants to be useful. She smiles as she starts carrying bags of bread. Watching her work always cheers Ryoichi up. Suddenly, the whole building starts shaking wildly from a powerful earthquake. The facility triggers an emergency alarm level 5. Stones begin to fall from the ceiling while Ryoichi shouts at Moya. He looks back and sees the warehouse is completely covered with debris. Our guy is completely frozen with shock. He falls to his knees and prays that she is okay. In despair, he enters the rock and fiercely digs through the stones. A bloody, terrifying roar spreads through the corridors. Ryoichi understood. The army of enslavement could not contain the aggro. A massive and dreadful eye peers through the cracks in the ceiling. The dragon finally found its target. The great dragon watches our guy, Ryoichi, with cold slit eyes. Koko jumps into the thick of it with him as soon as the beast tears the air with a deafening roar. In the depths of the caves, the leadership is completely losing their minds. Their target has escaped. General Misaki is frantic because his men let the raid fall apart. The Baron's army and the Duke's troops still won't start fighting, they only point fingers and spears at each other. Julius bursts in with a flash of steel to stop the fight before someone gets knocked out. Quiet, he commands, putting these fools in their place. The general realizes their coordination was a complete failure because they acted as a mixed force. Now the dragon flies to the giant's sanctuary to cause even more chaos. It crashes with a roar right through the ruins where Ryoichi stands. Our guy is stunned, frantically digging through the stones, searching for Moa. Koko rushes inside and grabs him just at the moment the ceiling starts to collapse. "What are you doing? Faster, let's get out of here," she shouts, but Ryoichi doesn't leave Moa. The building is now a total death trap, and the dragon looms right above them. Ryoichi is covered in blood and dust, and looks like he is about to snap at any moment. He moves towards the monster as if it is a suicide mission. Looking calmly at this huge lizard, he simply says, "I did not intend to die." With a terrible look in his eyes, he adds, "I plan to kill." He fires his ultimate, divine cloning technique. A swarm of Ryoichi clones surrounds the dragon's head from all sides. They unleash a hail of strikes, cutting deep wounds in its skull. Koko cannot believe her own eyes. The beast is actually taking damage. These indicators say, this level 98 great dragon has already endured and remains with 6,000 HP. Ryoichi swiftly rushes along its scaly back and drives the blade all the way in. "We take this ourselves," he shouts and drenches the scales with black blood. "I'll help," shouts Koko and joins the rapid assault. They move like a coordinated raid team, cutting through the dragon's skin. Mia watches them from the side and wonders if these two have completely lost their minds. She finds Malo, but they both understand. Moa is still buried under the rubble. Ryoichi is blinded by rage, standing exactly like his father did before he died. They must find Moa as soon as possible, or Ryoichi and Koko will finish themselves off. The dragon swipes with a massive claw, but Koko barely manages to lean back and dodge with a dance-like move. Ryoichi is already on his last legs, clinging to his sword to stay on his feet. He looks at the status and sees the fiery dragon's life bar no longer moves. The dragon's wounds are healing at gasps, realizing the boss has insane HP regeneration. Koko orders him to give her some time while she prepares a secret technique. Ryoichi sends his remaining clones to draw all the aggression onto themselves. The dragon flicks its tail and smears its clones click after click, as if they were trivial. "I can't anymore," replies Ryoichi, and his manipul is completely empty. The beast breaks him against the wall with a bone-breaking blow. Ryoichi starts coughing up blood and prays to endure just a few more seconds. Koko gathers her strength, though this step burns her own life force. "I will make the flower of the current bloom wildly," she proclaims, and her eyes flare. Moon Lotus Flash Blossom, she screams and tears the air with a whirlwind of strikes. With one sweep, she skillfully manages to enjoy both giant dragon hands. She reaches for the neck but misses. The dragon rushes forward, and its tail catches her with a hot strike. The blow is gigantic. Coco flies in all directions and shatters into pieces. Coco-san, Ryuichi shouts, seeing his partner fall. The dragon begins charging an attack, with red flames a hot breath to finish them off. Ryuichi desperately digs his gaze into the ground, searching for anything that could stop this. He notices a familiar weapon stuck in the mud. "I'll borrow this Mace-san," he growls and grabs the cursed spear for the final battle. The dragon lets out a deafening roar, and our guy Ryuichi instantly falls to the ground. He doesn't give a moment, lunges forward, and drives the spear straight into the monster's skull. The damage is almost none, but the powerful recoil knocks him off and flies further. Ryuichi is buried in the rubble, while the monster hunts for his head. She stares intently into his eyes, ready to finish the job. Ryuichi only barely smiles. What he crushed was just a clone. He thanks the monster for the escape, prepares the real spear while the dragon is pinned and held in place. When the hands are cut off, he is already ready to pull the trigger and unleash the true power of the weapon. Suddenly, Makin appears on the HUD and shouts, demanding that he stop. This thing is not for humans, and the recoil will directly erase his life gauge. Maiken tells him to give the clones strike instead of him. The problem is that Ryuichi is fully Ohm and cannot summon another body. The AI begs him to retreat because his survival is the top priority. All the villagers watch the live broadcast, trembling with tension for their hero. These guys are ready to throw away their lives just to give him a chance. Even the elders step forward and insist the village hero cannot be the one who dies. They start banging on the door incessantly in despair to get to the surface to help. Ryuichi hears their voice and his determination grows stronger. He gives them the last order is their master, stand by the door no matter what happens. But suddenly Mia bursts onto the battlefield and rushes forward, ignoring the danger. She grabs him, fully understanding, using that spear as a suicide mission. The wall is collapsing, and Ryuichi yells at her to run before they both get crushed. She will not back down. She swears to protect her older brother. She activates physical enhancement magic, and her body transforms into a diamond-hard shield. Ryuichi is afraid of losing her, but she does not give up. She tells him that Moya is alive and can use the same tank magic. She will beg him to trust her to win this fight and take her sister home. Our Ryuichi finally locks in and realizes this is their only chance to win. The dragon tears forward with everything it has. Together they pull the trigger. A giant explosion shakes the entire area. Miseka's spear explodes inside the dragon's skull, turning this boss into a blazing spectacle. The elf Malo yells at our guy Ru and Mia as the dragon finally breaks apart. Turns out Meseki's is a true beast. He survived the explosion, and straightening up showed that both he and Mia have mastered the hardened technique. Mi spent the last piece of mana to take the hit for Ryu, even though she couldn't protect herself from the consequences. Ryu is losing control because the spear literally stuck in the dragon's head all this time. Miseki explains the chimera lands hard as hell, so he basically let the dragon drag her by himself while he caught up. Her guy almost exploded himself, trembling with sweat, realizing he almost caused trouble by using such a dangerous RNG weapon. Masek is a joke. He could have let you die to take all the glory for himself, but he's just trolling. He squeezes Ryu's hand and says he has the endurance to become an A-rank legend. And even when she was knocked out by the blow, Mia is still holding onto you like a protective shield. Molo appears with Moe on his back and grumbles that the child is too heavy to carry. Moa is also stuck in hardened mode, even when unconscious, so now she is basically a heavy statue. Ryu pulls both twins into a tight embrace and can finally breathe while the old man says they will come too soon. Malo is already demanding an extra-large parfait as payment for his S-tier healing service. Gio and the guys burst onto the scene, desperate that our guy was already down after that explosion. Gio finally shows some respect, admits that they treated Coco as an outsider, although she is actually the true heroine. AI girl from Easta confirms signs of Dragon Life Zero and opens the gates. The sanctuary received a devastating blow and is now half ruined, but the underground vault is safe. Golems take all the damage. Every village person is accounted for and safe. This is a huge W. Ryu bitterly suffers over the broken golems, but AI says they will be restored over time if the cores remain intact. Restoring the temple is a massive hassle because it was already falling apart. And Ryu is now the master of this place, and he vows to rebuild it with cloning and high-tech equipment. The AI girl is actually eagerly waiting for that vision to come alive. Gio exclaims that the woodworking shop will devise a cunning plan and return for reconstruction. Time to celebrate the victory, because you can't kill a dragon without a few drinks afterward. The sun rises over the half-ruined tower, and that means the nightmare is over. Finally, the twins begin to open their eyes. They wake up screaming, still traumatized by the stone rain and the dragon attack. Yui meets them with a smile, and Malo leans back in the rear of the salon warming up while waiting for his promised parfait. Mia blushes wildly when she is hugged, but Malo does not understand why she is so shy around her brother. And then the shocking truth falls, revealing Ryu and Mia are only brother and sister on paper. They are not blood relatives, and this throws Malo into complete stupor. Coco enters the room fully recovered, as if her serious injuries were simply untrue. She thanks Ryu for saving her life, just as several high-ranking officials arrive at the sanctuary. A whole squad of heavily armored knights stands outside in formation. It is General Gustel himself, and the man looks incredibly serious. He bows and apologizes for the failed order, because of which the dragon finally broke free. For their bravery, Ryu and Coco are both awarded honorary knighthood. To make it official, they are invited to the royal capital Clavel. The children examine the map of the largest city on the island ready for the next arc of their journey. Coco must first get home and report to her father, but Moya does not allow her to go alone. Ryu decides that the new goal of their party is to later visit the birthplaces of everyone in the whole world. They step into the light and are ready to see how huge this world really is. The next stop is royal capital. Ryoichi officially hands over the shift in the village and sets off on the next mission to the royal capital. He feels a bit uneasy about leaving the construction crew behind, but the guys assure him they have taken control of the reconstruction. The entire carpentry workshop comes to give our guy a grand send-off. Even those tough-looking villagers got emotional when they asked him to come back anytime. The crew is finally ready to set out. It looks like an elite party that has just gathered to go on a raid. Moa worries that she will have to leave Mike behind, but Ryoichi boasts about his new wrist gadget. He breaks the device in half, and a mini AI microphone pops out and asks, "How can I help you?" Turned out that Ryoichi activated his big brain and installed her as the OS on the device he found during the restoration of the shrine. This is essentially a magical smartphone with GPS and a camera. He even made duplicates for the whole team so that during missions they would stay in sync. Malo tries to treat the AI like a servant, but Mike activates system restrictions, hits it with them, and declares that it doesn't even have the right to be called family. Milo is almost burning up because the gadget is frying him, while the rest just laugh. Suddenly, an elite crew arrives, one that leaves their old rides behind. Julius and his knights have arrived personally to escort the group like VIPs. They hit the road at full speed, surrounding the carriage with heavy armor. Inside, the seats are so soft and luxurious that the girls feel like real queens. Julius stuns everyone. He says that Ryoichi is being considered for the title honorary knight. Ryoichi trembles all over when thinking about climbing the social ladder. Julius adds that General Gustel is already a fan of his and wants to take him as a direct subordinate. Our guy definitely feels the pressure of being a recruit of the highest caliber. The group approaches General Gustav's camp to settle in for the night. In the main tent, the general rummages through reports and keeps reviewing the briefings. When Ryoichi and the girls enter, the general's aura is so oppressive that they involuntarily think a lecture is about to start. Mia and Moya introduce themselves, fearing the worst from this intimidating commander. But that tension immediately melts away, as he says that your sisters are truly incredibly charming. He again adopts a serious tone and explains, after the fight with the dragon, they experienced a huge shortage of food. His men tried hunting, but skeletons and slugs don't quite fit the menu. Ryoichi suggests the most gamer move of all possible, eating the dragon's carcass. He summons a huge monstrous creature from the item box, shocking the entire camp. Mikan quickly scans and confirms the meat is high protein and non-toxic. Ryoichi grabs a knife and starts preparing the monster's meat. He quickly cooks a portion of garlic soy-marinated dragon tatsudo as if it were a dish from a 5-star restaurant. The general takes one bite and feels the power wash over his body like a wave. Even the head chef is stunned by the ancestors' wisdom in the recipe. The girls simply devour the fried dragon, insisting that it is the most delicious flavor they have ever tasted. When night falls, Julia sets up 2 tents for the whole group so that everyone can use them together. Moa instantly takes Coco as a pillow because she is soft and cozy. Now only Ryoichi and Malo have to share the second tent between the two of them. When everyone turns around and lies down to sleep, the camp falls silent. Ryoichi is almost asleep when suddenly he realizes Malo has quietly sneaked into his bed. She tries to make it a joke, saying her goddess doesn't mind after all, she is still a child. Ryoichi orders her to stop acting like a little spoiled child, and this hurts her elven pride because in fact she is older. Before things get even more awkward, the sisters burst in with a request: give them a picture book. Mine sees them on the bed and thinks it's time to play horsey. Mia flies into the very chaos, and Ryoichi and Malo together get something that just blows them away. Coco appears near the entrance to the tent with a dark aura, like a final boss. Someone screams so loudly at night here that it tears the ear, and I assume it's just a lover's quarrel, but with spice. The sun rises over the new day, while the cart continues rolling on its way. They break forward through the open spaces. Finally, in the distance, the huge castle of the capital, Kryval, emerges. The scale of the city walls is insane, even for a seasoned traveler. Julia says the ceremony is tomorrow, so they need to prepare their drip. They head to the bustling streets of the city. Their first stop is an elite tailor's shop. The girls are wildly happy that they can finally wear pretty dresses. Mio and Moya step outside like real princesses. Not only does Malo deceive them, she also boasts about her luxurious new frills. Ryoichi gives them a 10 out of 10, and they shine with pride. Coco appears in her standard outfit because her dress still needs time for finishing. Julius tells them that they can enjoy the capital for the rest of the day. Ryoichi and Malo wander the streets, stunned by the scale of this place. Malo shows a huge temple towering on the mountain. It is an amazing architectural structure dedicated to the wind. She explains that the wind goddess Sulfina is honored here. Malo cannot receive the blessing because she is already a priestess for another god. Ryoichi steps forward and receives a powerful flash of holy energy. The sisters are depressed the RNG gods did not choose them today. Suddenly, a male voice calls out from the shadows and calls Ryoichi. He immediately recognizes the new blessing of Ryoichi. It looks proportional, sharp, and mysterious. Malo completely loses control when he realizes that this is the first apostle Michaelius. Makahise tells Ishikawa that meeting here again in this temple is pure fate. Our guy understands. The blessing is rare because the gods are constantly fighting among themselves. The apostle asks how Ryoichi is coping with the new life, and simultaneously drops bitter hints about the complicated relationships of the heavens. Mia and Moya burst inside and shout that every day is pure bliss with their older brother. The big man simply smiles, catching these good and bright moods. He immediately hears and recognizes the crazy aura of Coco's sword and the water blessing of the elf. Coco and the elf are in absolute shock, bowing as if they met the final boss. Michaelius drops a quest hint, suggesting they need to visit temples around the world to collect more blessings. He warns them the gods will throw trials at them until they grant true power. Only like this, the apostle presses the despond button and disappears as if he never existed. The elf quickly stabs Ryoichi with a jab for behaving too familiarly with a literally divine being. Coco admits that her hands were trembling and sweating so much it was falling off, because the pressure was many times worse than during the fight with the dragon. The squad suddenly realizes that they are just small fish in a big pond and sets a new goal for the temple pilgrimage. Next is the investiture ceremony, and the whole team dressed in elite formal clothes, as if tailored perfectly. Ryoichi admits that he can't even compete such cute sisters in their new dresses. The elf behaves as if she is too important and majestic, trying to show her refined side. She admires herself in that black dress in hopes that no one will call her a child anymore. Then Coco comes out in a white dress, looking simply like an S-tier waifu. The team sneaks onto the palace grounds. Our guy is completely stunned by her gaze and starts blushing like a total fool. Malo begins to get jealous of the eye contact and, out of spiteful amusement, stretches Ryoichi's face. A knight approaches in a carriage to escort the new legends to the castle. They step over the threshold of the palace, which looks as if 1 billion gold coins were spent on its construction. The main hall is packed with nobles. Everyone has gathered to see the dragon slayers. Trumpets roar as the duke triumphantly enters to begin the celebration. He sits on the throne and orders the dragon's remains to be brought out. The giant creature is driven onto a wheeled platform, and it still looks terrifying, even after being assembled. The crowd of aristocrats completely erupts as soon as they see the monster. Applause echoes thunderously through the hall. The Duke honors General Gustav and his troops for their reckless courage in battle. Gustav steps forward and receives the legendary Dragon Slayer medal. Next, the Duke calls the two who risked everything to deliver this warning. He officially bestows the honorary title of knights on Ryoichi and Coco. The couple bows, humbly accepting the grand promotion in rank. Ryoichi looks surprised. It all ended so quickly. After that, they head to a private room to relax together with Baron and Maiskis. The Baron warns, this title is recognized only here, so in the capital they are still nobodies. He begins to mutter that the capital's nobles have too much power nowadays. Ryoichi understands that even high-level players have to endure annoying politics. The Baron wants to recruit more local talents to close the gap in their influence. Maisky says there was a plan to hire them as servant keepers, and this throws the duo off track. And he honestly believes that a conspiratorial noble life will be a constant burden for them. He advises them to go on a journey while they are young, rather than rot behind walls. The team gathers again in their room. The sisters are already waiting for them. Coco is completely exhausted from the social energy expenditure of the ceremony. My little one wants Raikai to finally get those card games he keeps babbling about. He pulls out a deck of cards for the game, and Moa lights up eager to jump into the fray. Mia even tries to use them for some low-level fortune-telling. Raikai builds a card tower, and the children will guess if they can find friends at the upcoming banquet. Mia fears that the noble children won't want to befriend them commoners. Malo acts as a mentor, while the squad starts a full-fledged gaming session. Suddenly the door creaks and a tiny crown peeks through the crack. A mysterious young girl admits she followed the sound of their voices because she got curious. Moa doesn't hesitate for a moment and immediately pulls the newcomer right into her circle. The girl calls herself Kirika and asks what game they are playing. Raikai explains the rules of Old Maid and why the Joker is essentially a demon card. Kirika casts a sly glance and suggests playing a punishment game for the loser. Kirika sets the stakes for the punishment game harsh, on the edge of a loud. Our guy Ryoichi starts trembling and sweating as soon as she recalls undressing, so he quickly offers punishment in a swimsuit instead. He takes out a high-tech men's swimsuit from the item box to show her the latest fashion trends. Kirika's eyes flash that elastic clothing is almost magic for her. Ryoichi agrees to the bet only if she can really beat him in Old Maid. The other team starts getting hungry, and Moa demands donuts to keep energy levels up. Moa trembles with excitement over that pastry, with a hole, while the rest join the raid for a snack. The girls realize if sugar is at stake, they cannot lose. Ryoichi enforces strict rules. If he wins, no donuts for anyone. The girls instantly switch to full try-hard mode. Karika starts training Moa and hints which card to draw. She whispers the meta stars right into her ear to ensure victory. Ryoichi realizes it seems this little genius is leading him by the nose. Mia discards one pair and looks too confident for her own good. Ryoichi thinks he is safe when Maya reaches her last card. Then he pulls out the Joker and spins it so that everything gets distorted. Marlowe declares that this game is pure mind chess. The girls take the W and celebrate their loud victory. Karika shows that she didn't even have a Joker, and our guy concedes defeat and gives up the donuts. He also gave away the swimsuit. He was going to gift it to someone anyway. Kirk enjoys the donuts so much that they disappear in seconds. The elf literally gnaws on crumbs, while Marlowe offers to share his portion. Kureka asks the maid to sew her new gear so she can wear it later. The hostess maid appears in the arena and is shocked to see that the lady is just hanging out here. Time for the banquet. The Duke is already worried about his daughter. The party is in full swing, plenty of food and an atmosphere of the upper world. The Duke himself appears to thank Ryoichi for babysitting his child. Ryoichi realizes that he calmly spent time with the Duke's daughter, and he starts to panic. Karika looks a bit lonely as her father leaves. She tells Ryoichi to drop the formal tone and just call her Karika. She also drops titles for him so they can become true friends. The rest of the party is all about that. Ryoichi says that next they are going to the port town of Kirk. He worries about the lack of an escort for her, but Kirika calls Irina. The maid is actually a high-class bodyguard responsible for security. The older girls are simply exhausted from too much socializing and overeating. The next day they depart for the city in a luxurious carriage. They are looking at the huge windmill, the true business card of the city, its main landmark. Kirika talks about the blessing of the wind, and Ryoichi feels the gentle wind. She recalls that spirits of the wind live near Lake Mottons. The children want to see ghosts, but Kirika warns, fighting them is dangerous. Merlot's first instinct is to try to cross swords with her to test his strength. While they continue the city tour, they visit a fortune teller for a prophecy. The girls receive identical ribbons to celebrate their new friendship. Ryoichi stumbles upon a bookstore filled with rare magical knowledge. He notices a legendary book from Triangle Magic Company. It is a relic of a lost civilization, and it costs him as much as 7 gold coins. Later, Ryoichi reveals he can actually read ancient writing. Moa boasts to Kirika about her own magical instrument. AI named Mike appears on the screen and jumps out of the device to greet them. Kirika was so stunned, they can talk from a distance. Kirika thinks the AI looks like Arena, but Mike and sensors deny it. They start planning the next big outing on the map. But Arena stops everything because Kirika has classes tomorrow. Kirika must follow her father's rules, but promises to spend time with them. 2 days pass instantly, and finally the day of departure arrives. Ryoichi feels that if she is of noble birth, she will have no freedom at all. Kirika runs up with a gift, dreaming that she can join the celebration. Moa bursts into tears as they say goodbye for the last time. She wants to give Karika her communication device so they stay in touch. Ryoichi has already copied a new one for her, so the friendship is safe. And when Ryoichi opens the gift, there is a swimsuit for the girl, sewn based on his old one. Arena warns them, stay alert at the port, the situation is becoming dangerous. Pirates have been robbing ships in this area for over a month. The Black Pirate Order is the main threat everyone is worried about. Their leader is Pirate Barbarossa, and he looks like a real boss for a big fight. Our guy and the team finally reach the coast, but the vibe immediately drops something is wrong. The team disperses to handle business to clear boring paperwork, and the kids relax by the water. Bad news hits instantly. The regular ferry is completely stopped. Pirate ships have blocked the route. Local shipwrights are going crazy. The repair queue is overwhelmed, and there are no more materials. They can no longer wait for the wood, and the supply chain has completely burned down. Ryoichi presses the most skillful gamer move and asks if they need a resource. He dumps a whole pile of wood from the village, blessed ire on them, and these guys treat it as if he just threw them a stack of SSR fields. They are so heated up that they pay the full market price and insist that he meet with the main boss at the local branch. He heads to the Travelers Guild to meet the man who runs things here. Guildmaster Held already knows exactly who he is thanks to that legendary dinner with the Dragon Slayers. He immediately raises Ryoichi to rank C so that he matches his real strength. But there is a catch. Held has a special request that only a heavyweight can handle. It turns out the Black Pirate Fleet, led by a monster named Barbarossa, is completely destroying local trading ships. These are not just random, trash mobs. There is a spirit mage here with a high level in combat skills comparable to Royal Knights. Even with the army's involvement, the pirates slipped away and managed to escape the last raid. Help insists that Ryoichi join the punitive forces as soon as the general returns to the city. Our guy is sweating with fear after all. He confidently hunts monsters, but PvP against people is a completely different matter. Coco chimes in. They want, if possible, to prevent a complete massacre. Held respects the bloodless pacifist and tells them to relax by Spirit Lake while they think everything over. The children are eager to go especially because the lake is free of pirates. They boast about the toy boats they crafted during breaks. Ryoichi gives them the green light, let them test their fleet in the safe zone. They arrive at Martin's Lake, which is essentially an almost 10-10 picturesque place. Then Ryoichi prepares to launch miniature boats for the girls. After a quick dip in the water to cool off, Coco decides to show off her current swimming technique. Since the food at Food Darmalo started to wander, Ryoichi decides it's time for a barbecue by the lake. He switches to Iron Chef mode with charcoal because nothing beats that smoky flavor. It seems the presentation is simply god tier: fried squid, corn, and yakisoba. He notices a stone slab that looks like a perfect table and places the food on it. The girls are already ready to dive into dinner as soon as they smell the burning soy sauce. But as soon as they look around, the entire meal disappears as if dissolved into thin air. Molo notices that this is not just a table, but an altar and starts panicking. Suddenly, the great spiritual figure herself appears with an ear of corn and a noodle in each hand. She admits that the smell was so strong that she couldn't resist. She just pointed at the altar to grab a piece. Malo tells Ryoichi to bring her donuts to earn her favor. The spirit sinks into a complete sugar coma and decides to reward them with a generous, massive blessing. A pack of radiant wind spirits appears from the air like some elite fluffy familiars. The children immediately start petting them, but these things are not just for show. The Great Spirit explains, with her blessing, they can now make contracts with spirits of all elements. Ryoichi evaluates one and realizes that its stats are almost at dragon level. The spirit flares up. It is tempted to peek at her delicate statistics without permission. Ryoichi apologizes, and the spirit says that to complete the contract, it needs a name. He falls silent for a moment and suddenly realizes the flower on her head looks like a hairpin. He officially calls her Lily, and she is actually fine with that mood. The spiritual gates open, sealing the deal, and drive his magical contours to the full. Returning to Kirkport, a giant warship stands by the pier moored and already ready for battle. On board, the knight approaches a mysterious figure hovering over the water and registers. This is Alian Bark, and he senses the appearance of a new spirit mage nearby. The knight wants to immediately recruit this new mage into his squad. Alan looks quite indifferent to all this comrade pathos. Even being a top A-rank adventurer, he carries a heavy aura of loneliness. They say that everyone who ever formed a party with him eventually disappeared. Alian stands alone, looking like a person who has survived too many game overs. Rauti wakes up in dirt and does not understand where that cat went. Lily sneaks onto his shoulder and starts calling him names for thinking he is possessed. She decides to jump on the picked-up idea because his friends have already signed their contracts. The whole team stream boasts their new summons, as if they just pulled a 4-star multipull. Our guy realized they all took the contracts because they are actually decent people. Compared to those calm spirits the girls got, Lily is definitely the most fiery in this company. Now she demands tribute for the honor of being his partner. Ryoichi makes a cool move, bribing her with donuts because the Great Spirit loved them. Spirits are just swarming in the chest, as if it's a limited bonus for a quick login. Even Malo joins the snack distribution. They are planning a welcome barbecue. Lily explains that the spirit gate amplifies internal magic tenfold. Ryoichi tries and unleashes a powerful gust of wind, even though he is not a wind mage. But the main thing is the connection. It is what keeps strength and accuracy at a high level. While others get closer, Milo is sweating her spirit, just wants to eat and sleep. Later, Ryoichi sets off to some ruins to test what his new collection is truly capable of. He channels his magic through the gate, and Lily adores this wild surge. He shouts Windcutter and erases a huge stone column from the world. The output power is so high, it's frightening. Returning to the guild, I met the master. He is already waiting, clutching heavy news. He introduces Olian Bark, an elite spirit mage who has long been waiting for them. She swings the dragon spirit on her shoulder, and behind her a whole squad of knights. She says she has serious business to discuss with the new recruits. Julius approaches with a grim look, lifts a scroll, and throws it on the table. This is an official edict ordering all spirit mages to join the pirate force of conquest. These sea battles are essentially long-range magical duels between ships. It seems these pirates have mages capable of summoning tornadoes and giant whirlwinds. If they evade the draft, their titles will be taken away, and they will become fugitives wanted by the authorities. There is no time to waste, so they storm the kingdom's warship. Sorry, but I won't allow her surname to be dragged through the mud, so she is fully committed to the mission. Ryoichi manages to keep the children away from the clash, so he leaves them in Malo's care. Julius promises that while the sisters are away, female knights will watch over them. These pirates are not just expendable material, they are accumulating mountains of power and gold. Olian explains that the current balance of power is a dead end. Ryoichi is worried because they are only level 1 mages, but Olian senses enormous potential in them. They officially seal the deal, forming a party for the raid. Olian asks why he is not wary, although most people find her frightening. It turns out she is an A-rank adventurer, on par with Meisuke in his prime years. She was surprised that Ryoichi was so calm despite her flashy outfit. Our guy simply tells her, basically this is cosplay and he is glad there is a backup. That tiny bit of kindness makes the level of villain blush. She tells him to drop the formalities and just call her Carrie. Suddenly the whole ship starts rocking wildly as if they hit a reef. It's an ambush from the 3 o'clock direction and fire magic. The pirate ship rapidly closes the distance. The pirate boss with a hook hand croaks with laughter while preparing to board. They bypass the long-range target and immediately engage in close combat. The enemy ship crashes into them, and the deck instantly turns into a war zone. The boss orders his guys to destroy them. And his top mage is a real slacker. He teleported away because he hates close combat. That weirdo is already back at the port, tired of the battle. He watches as Faye presents herself to the sisters back at the docks. The children hide their spirits as if they were ordered to. The gloomy mage in a hood begins to scrutinize them, calling them cute girls. He summons a huge Kraken spirit to do his dirty work. Meanwhile, in the open sea, chaos reigns again. Night trading clashes with the Barbara's crew. The captain laughs loudly, shrugging off the unexpected attack, and boasts about how much damage they caused while the knights were away. The pirates decide to focus fire on the greatest threat, Catherine, the legendary fire mage spirit. They launch a colossal explosion right at her, trying to remove her from the server. Ryoichi shouts, "Save Sana," and the flames cover the deck, but Carrie only smiles fiercely and asks, "Do you really think you can reduce me to ashes?" as soon as she calls her fire spirit. She releases a huge flame, and the pirate's strategy turns into a complete trash nightmare. The pirates go crazy. When the ship is hit with heavy damage, they call her a monster. Ryoichi breathes a sigh of relief, seeing that she is okay, but Carrie suddenly starts crying. She was told that she is a monster. It seems her old squad abandoned her because she was too strong, and now she still can't recover from it. On the other side of the deck, Siri is thoroughly combing the pirate with a blade. The madwoman makes a fatal mistake, calls her a lapdog, and that's a one-way ticket to being quickly taken down. He keeps himself calm, while her soul boils with anger. She summons a huge wolf spirit, which unleashes a real black tornado. The mob heaps throw into the sky, as if they are playing a physics simulator. Ryoichi bursts into battle with his own spirit partner to clear the deck. He moves so fast, it seems he leaves afterimages to confuse the pirates who are still left. Our guy finally clashes in a fight with Captain Barbarossa himself, deflecting the heavy swings of the giant. The captain is actually impressed and tries to recruit Ryoichi, promising him drinks and women. Before Ryoichi can say no, the knight captain bursts onto the scene and puts things straight. Barbarossa is not going to fight fair and charges his magical prosthetic shoulder. He launches a powerful explosion, and wooden splinters fly everywhere. While the knights are distracted by the hole in the hull, the captain gives the order for a full retreat. The pirate ship sails into the western sun, and our team only then realizes it is literally sinking right now. At that moment, Malo grabs the communication channel and broadcasts devastating news. She and Faye were completely destroyed by a man with a cursed water spirit. Ryoichi finally loses his temper when he hears that Maya and Moya have been kidnapped. His spirit partner explains the girl's status was probably changed by a tempering spell. Ryoichi notices the pirate ship and immediately understands the sisters are still on board. On the pirate deck, a hooded rogue watches the retreat with complete indifference. Barbara Rosa tells the figure that they are not killers and were just taking the loot. The monster shows that it tore the sisters from Kelkport only for training purposes. He lifts helpless girls with his tentacles as if they were just ordinary things. The captain is actually a cool dude and demands that the children be released because it's their code. The hooded figure officially put an end to this conversation. Barbarossa points a cannon arm at him and threatens to shoot on the spot. The villain just bursts out laughing and prepares to throw himself into the fight. He pierces the pirate with a spear through the chest before anyone can move. Other crew members scream in shock as their comrade falls. The pirates surrounded the monster ready to tear it to pieces. But he just teleports up to the mast's deck instantly, without any pause. He says that the spirits of sorcerers are useless and threatens to break his toys before leaving. A thought crosses his mind, maybe just throw the girls overboard to lighten the load. Suddenly, Ryoichi crashes into the ground from the sky like a meteor. The thief trembles from side to side and cannot figure out who, damn it, is using wind magic to jump so high. Ryoichi doesn't give him a chance to breathe. He immediately dives straight at the target. Our guy successfully snatches the twins back, looking like a real chat while landing perfectly. That scoundrel recognizes Ryoichi and starts mocking the scaffolding. Ryoichi suddenly holds his breath and demands, how does this villain even know his name? The enemy starts lying and rattling that the elven priestess and children begged him while they were tortured. Without warning, a giant shockwave of energy cuts through the air. The power is so insane that it slices the ship's mast right in half. Ryoichi realizes that talking is a waste of time, so he uses wind magic to pave the way for escape. And the villain doesn't let them slip away and unleashes a hail of black debris. Ryoichi doesn't even flinch. He takes the entire blow in the back, protecting the girls. The impact throws them onto the deck, and they crash into it with a bang, a brutal explosion of wood and blood. The masked mage looks down on them, calling the child a dead weight that only hinders Ryoichi from moving forward. Mi and Moya are horrified, watching as their older brother is covered in wounds. Even as he loses blood, Ryoichi orders them to run and find some safe place. Mia clings to him and sobs that in his arms is the only place left safe in this world. Suddenly, Captain Barbarossa and his crew emerge from the darkness. The captain throws a hammer, reminding everyone that the pirate code strictly forbids harming women and children. Now the whole crew directs aggression at the masked mage for being a despicable bastard. The thief gets annoyed by the interference and prepares to wipe everything clean with a giant spell. He raises a colossal whirlwind that begins to drag the entire ship into the abyss. He laughs like a true psycho and promises to make it rain blood for everyone on board. Ryoichi lunges forward for a counterattack, but the villain simply vanishes from reality, blinked, and disappeared. The mage starts boasting and says that his spirit Kraken gives him perfect teleportation magic. Ryoichi cuts through black energy blades while the villain orders him to simply surrender and die. Our guy doesn't give up that easily. He accelerates and surrounds the mage with a series of afterimages. Kanak connects via communication and informs Ryoichi that she has analyzed the enemy's movements. She explains that Kraken is the one controlling the teleports, so all they can do is seal the spirit. The villain is still babbling nastiness, threatening that next time they meet, he will track down Ryoichi's entire family. Ryoichi looks him straight in the eyes and says that there won't be a next time. The Bondi trickster thinks Ryoichi is acting out of desperation when he throws his weapons. But it was a trap so that Ryoichi could get close and strike at point-blank range. Our guy shortens a massive blow, and the mage is thrown back as if pushed with all his might. Ryoichi pins a trash mop to the deck, and the villain desperately shouts for Kraken to teleport him to a safe place. He is unlucky the spirit cat has firmly latched onto Kraken and completely suppressed his powers. Ryoichi looms over the fallen mage and declares that from now on he will officially show no mercy. Ryuichi simply crushed this hooded monster. The thief notices Ryoichi's rare black eyes, and cold sweat immediately breaks out on her. He starts babbling nonstop about some ancient ruins Hill of the Dead. It turns out the founder of the kingdom was a visitor named King Dorado, and he looks exactly like our guy. This Dorado was a complete star in childhood tales, saving princesses and becoming a legendary hero. But the villain says the fairy tale is a complete lie. It seems Dorado went insane as soon as the princess got pregnant. He switched to full villain mode, blew up his own kingdom, and killed his family before shutting down himself. This weirdo says he is a fan of the fallen king and wants Ryoichi to follow that dark path. He orders Ryoichi to finish him off, otherwise he will spill blood on the sisters. Suddenly blood splashes erupt everywhere, and the pirate crew hangs in shock. Even Barbarossa gets hit when trying to take the blows for the girls. Ryoichi finally breaks down, activates the forbidden advanced dark magic. He is already ready to send this clown back to the lobby. Lily yells at him to stop the recoil from this magic is insane. Ryoichi apologizes, but he is already crossing that line to stop this forever. He tears space apart with a huge explosion of dark energy. When everything escalates to a nuclear disaster, Carrie intervenes to stop this mad rampage. She tells our guy to calm down, because hitting such trash it rots the hand. Ryoichi is stunned to see her there. It turned out that she, together with Coco, used wind magic and literally hurled herself onto the ship. Carrie tells Ryoichi, let her handle the rest herself. She promises the buddy a warm hug while her spirit dragon hovered over him. The man screams in agony, and Ryoichi just wants fried squid. Carrie says that General Gustav's main fleet has finally arrived. We sharply move to the port where the pirates are officially surrendered. Barbarossa admits that he did not expect to be used as bait. Gustav is impressed that Ryoichi achieved capitulation without any casualties. Even in shackles, the girls thank Barbarossa for covering them. The captain jokes that they will join his crew if he ever breaks out of prison. He is led away, and he looks genuine despite being a pirate. Ryoichi notes that they really were not that evil. Kostov explains the capital needs reform and the people are already fed up. He even suggests promoting Ryoichi for his colossal contribution. He hopes that they can follow the same path in the future. Here is Ryoichi Spotsmilo all beaten up, looking completely exhausted. She scolds herself for being useless during the fight. Ryoichi suddenly hugs her to calm her down. She gets confused but reminds him that he is her future husband. Yet Ryoichi cannot stop thinking about that King Dorado as if he were a transmigrator. He almost starts talking about the Elven Kingdom, but decides to set it aside for now. The pirate incident is officially recorded in the books. Coco says the fairies are getting back to work, and Ryoichi decides to just be himself despite everything that happened in the past. Time to set course for the Kakinatsu Islands. Carrie and Ryoichi are already sweating on the deck during a tough level, a sparring session. The screech of steel is the only sound on the boat, while our guy tries not to fall behind the literally legendary one. Carrie admits he has a real talent for the blade, not just the axe. Ryoichi is on edge, but thanks to his crazy regeneration factor, he endures these high-level blows. He hones his skills to never feel helpless again, defending his team once more. Seeing the achievements, the younger sisters also caught the victory in the training duel. Carrie falls in love with the cute student look and agrees to mold them into fighters, but before they get their swords, she arranges an elegant tea party. Stop, this is no bridal preparation. They are just dressed up for the arena for role-playing and dressed like maids, that's all. This is essentially deep spirit mage training to synchronize them with the summoned ones. They need to eat and laugh together to reach that high-level state of unity of spirit and people. The goal is a complete overhaul, although Ryuichi thinks he is too much of a middle tier to handle it. While everyone is getting into the vibe, Milo is currently losing 1v1 against seasickness. Coco pours medicine for the elf, and Ryoichi just stands and watches the melted blobs on the floor. Coco says she is married to the blade and doesn't need a man. Our guy tells her that at the ceremony she looked like a real bombshell, so the grooms will already line up. Coco makes her move and asks, "Would you take me, Ryoichi-san?" The whole squad immediately collapses from sudden talks about romance. Ryoichi keeps everything professional and wants to register the party to officially protect them in foreign lands. Coco realizes family is a real stat boost she has been waiting for. Malo barely recovers just in time to declare herself the first wife and look at the rivals with a cold gaze. Ryoichi is drenched in sweat as he tries to sneak through this harem laboratory to your social meeting. Tender sentimentality hits the chest as soon as they finally approach Coco's home territory. The observer notices the peaks of Sangua Island emerging from the horizon. Coco breaks down the explanation of Kakinatsu Archipelago, saying her home is Ikige Island. They approach Makuni Port looking like pure force, pure party power. Malo crashes into the ground like a sack of potatoes, while the others look for a place to land. They find a spot nearby, exactly like an expensive Japanese ryokan. Food vendor Miyabi meets 6 guests, and Ryoichi instinctively enters and takes off his boots. He himself understood the no-shoes rule, without even hearing a single hint, a pure pro-gamer move. They take the room with peonies, and damn it, the view here is just absolutely top-notch. The children adore the grass carpet, while Coco explains the magic of tatami. Sipping tea in this atmosphere, Ryoichi feels as if he has returned to Japan. They tell the host that they accompanied Coco back to her family home on Ikige. Miyabi warns them, everything has escalated there due to a series of disputes over inheritance. The Dango gang begins to worry about the trouble they are about to step into. Coco explains that her father is a martial arts master. He has 2 wives and a huge estate. There are 3 sons from the first wife and 3 daughters from the concubine. Despite the difference in status, the old man treated each child as if they were the main character. The eldest brother Sarah was a star student, and the second son Masato was simply a free thinker. Her third brother Coral was a frail scholar, with whom Coco actually once sparred. Miyabi takes out a yukata so the whole team can head to the hot springs. After a long soak, the girls finally see the price of the expensive kimonos and realize it is as much as 50 gold coins. Carrie thinks it's time to do a major equipment upgrade. The girls go outside true queens in their new floral patterns. Everyone gathers around Ryoichi to check if he is getting used to the new look. Our guy goes full gacha whale and decides to buy absolutely every costume on the spot. It's only 150 gold, but the money from Dragon trophies means Ryoichi is definitely flush. They meet with a diplomat named Sujitani at a grand seafood banquet. The diplomat is impressed by their bond, even when Malo is busy presenting herself as the status of her beloved. The mood sharply changes as soon as Sujitani says he is here to resolve a tragic feud in the family. The Jabeldias family is torn from within, who among them should lead Kegu Island. Coco is completely stunned. She did not hear a single word about this from her family. The catastrophe happened just before the ceremony. Coco's father and older brother collapsed unconscious after poisoning. They are bedridden and apparently have only half a month left to live. Sujitan offers to give them a ride on the cruiser to get there faster, and desperate Coco agrees. She is overwhelmed by this news, but Ryoichi is right there. He catches her. He tells her to leave everything to him. He will not let her family die. Returning to the island, the tension is so thick it can be cut with a blade. The second son, Masato, babbles nastiness and looks for someone to take out of the way. And the thin third son, Karo, does not back down. He exposes his brother for his crimes. Masato casts a shadow over his brother's newly gained confidence. Sero no longer jokes. He draws a blade to put an end to this. Both are ready to bear the sin of killing their own brother to end this hostility. They converge on the edge of the precipice. In the clash, steels collide and they go all in an honest duel. Meanwhile, we move to the Gabaldia residence on Ikegu Island. The staff is going crazy because Lady Coco has finally returned. She calls our guy and the rest of the company inside. A heavy atmosphere falls on them as soon as they enter the master's room. Toshiaki on his deathbed looks completely crushed. Koko introduces the team, and the old man immediately sees these are not just some random nobodies. He immediately fixes his gaze on Ryoichi. The man is a warrior to the bone. He felt Ryoichi's insane level of power even before he choked on blood and coughed. Koko panics and begs Malo to start a rear attack. Malo checks the status and realizes the highest level of magic is already active, but no one is doing anything. This is because the masked priest incessantly sends out rituals. The treatment does not work, and the old man is rapidly fading. The priest orders everyone to evacuate the premises. This is a defeat. The chance is lost. The group goes out into the corridor, feeling the weight of this situation. Koko asks where her mother is, but the answer is bad news. Lady Minaka ended up under house arrest. Lady Chuno pushed her there. Koko is desperate to find her mother. She is held in her own home like a prisoner. The mother reveals the truth about the succession war, the one that tears the family apart. She was framed, accused of poisoning the head of the house during the ceremony. Koko is ready to go into battle to prove her mother's innocence. They begin to talk about Corral's brother, and then the culprit of the events appears out of nowhere. Kara was covered in blood the whole time and was dragging a suspicious bag. He looks pathetic, and Koko is in a panic over what happened to him. He claims that Masato is the real villain behind all this chaos. Kara orders our guy to take the women and get off the island before it gets too late. Koko, in despair, hits the floor because her family has fallen apart. Ryoichi doesn't buy this mood. Pure bloodthirstiness hangs in the air. Suddenly, two little fox girls rushed at him with wooden swords. Our guy doesn't even wipe his sweat dodging. These two come so easily to him. He effortlessly parries their strikes as if they were some worthless trash mobs. He trains sparring with the best, so these kids can't even touch him. He uses quick wind magic, a tornado, to safely carry them away. Mom steps forward to apologize for the warm welcome of Mimi and Meme. The twins realize the trouble they caused and officially apologized. Ryoichi notices how much his stats have increased since the beginning of this journey. Koko feels pressure not to fall behind Ryoichi's growth. They try to escape, but the guards block the way on Chuno's orders. The whole group is officially stuck in this mess. Ryoichi begins to think about how to save the old man. Since magic doesn't work, he resorts to appraisal to find out it's a medical condition, not a curse. He realizes modern medical technology might be the only chance to save the situation. He calls Mike inside to do a scan, but she first needs a medical kit upgrade. The map shows that the nearest upgrade point is on Hachiku Island. Ryoichi decides the only way out is forward. Even if it's a long shot, he will bet everything on his tech. Koko is already in tears. Our boy is the only hope left for her. The crew arrives at the huge ruins on Kachiku Island. They begin to survey the area in search of any signs of a laboratory. They go deep into a dark cave, and they're a complete dead end. Maikin explains that the real facility is hidden deep in the mountains. Our guy Ryoichi is now ravaging the mountain slope with his magical armored tank. The team is immersed in nostalgia for their old mining days, even if there are a few too many places for seating. Kari-sen is going crazy. She has never seen an artifact of such a high level in the royal capital. They smash through the last layer of rock with a heavy blow. The tank rolls into a huge, high-tech underground corridor. This is a secret research base hidden deep in the mountains. Mike N appears on the screen, examines the floor plan, and leads them straight to the generator on the third underground floor. The atmosphere is full of horror game vibes as they descend the dark stairs. Kari-sen explains that the company that built this is now just a huge recycling plant. But they just sell old artifacts, not make more of them. Finally, they reach the lower floor and come across a huge emergency magical generator. It is a complete rarity, but it is their only chance to restore power. Maiken warns him about the burnt wiring, but Ryoichi is not worried at all. He performs his magic using a replication box to replace broken parts with fresh ones. The girls stand behind, holding their breath as they watch his masterful tier mechanic skills. He presses the switch system reboots and registers Ryo Ikai as the new administrator. The entire building is engulfed in flickering light and security systems unlock everywhere. They find a food storage warehouse preserved in measurable freezing. Mike can understand that she is capable of synchronizing her data with an artificial humanoid to enhance her functions. They reach the innermost doors where the project is kept. Mike immediately begins the synchronization process. Suddenly, as the process nears completion, the preservation tube starts releasing steam. So far on Aiku Island, events are already spiraling out of control. It's getting too hot. Two ninja foxes run through the forest at full speed. Mimi and Memi manage to escape from the guards using a combination of sleeping powder. They follow a blood trail, sensing both Brother Kurao and Brother Masato in it. They are in panic. They think Masato has lost his mind and done something unimaginable. Memi tries to defend him, saying he is a reckless lover but not a cold-blooded killer. Switching to the Jebertius family estate. Kurao is being treated for wounds, and his mother steadfastly stays nearby. He mercilessly drops a bombshell. Masato is already dead. He makes a bag with Masato's severed hand inside and a terrifying-looking dagger. The elders of the family are simply stunned by this news. It turns out this is Sasafune, the legendary cursed blade that brings ruin to whoever holds it. The mother is ready to go on a bloody rampage and punish everyone in the Masato faction. Karaz interrupts the conversation to stop the hype about provocations. He says that quarrels will only tear the family apart. His mother calms down and asks what he thinks they should do instead. He suggests expelling Lady Manaka and her daughters to preserve peace. It's a cruel game, but perhaps the only way to save the clan from total destruction. The team started as if they had just broken free from a high-level gacha banner. Makin finishes installing all the expansion kits, and our guy gets a full-fledged medical zone. Ryoichi realizes he is the new administrator of this huge facility, but the security is behaving way too relaxed. Besides century-old canned goods, this place is essentially a legendary treasury of riches. We are talking about a real armory, packed with combat exoskeletons with military-grade magic. Ryoichi sweats in 3 streams because the children still do not even know what a weapon is. He knows this technology is too heavy for one person. Excessive force, if it falls into the wrong hands, becomes a colossal problem. They decide to freeze the object in time and completely block the control systems. Mikin switches to full overkill mode, sets up Shisa golems, and prepares a self-destruct nuclear bomb as a backup plan. Our guy truly trembles at the thought of what could have happened if they had failed the test earlier. Returning to the mansion, Lady Chuno comes to Manaki with very important news. Coco is sent to watch the children while the adults handle matters. The mood falls into an abyss when Chuno says that Masato is already dead. It turns out Masato is the rat who tried to poison the lords. The family completely disowns her, and Coco cannot believe that this nightmare is real. Chuno grants them a small relief, spares them from further punishments. Manaka lashes out and sharply reproaches her mother, as if she is so cold-blooded about the death of her own son. Despite the grief, they are told, Lord Toshiaki is still clinging to life. They will have one last chance to visit the estate before they are finally driven out. Coco feels her world falling apart as she processes the betrayal. Even worse, Mimi and Meme pulled off a classic ninja switch and disappeared. By the shore, waves pound against a cave hidden in the rocks. The girls explore the dark tunnels, although the atmosphere there is openly cursed. Mimi trembles in her boots while Meme tries to joke with her, telling scary ghost stories. The joke abruptly dies when a zombie mob literally appears behind their backs. Mimi screams in terror as the monster lunges forward to kill. Meanwhile, the main party finally docks at Ikigo Island. They need to find Coco quickly, but the island is teeming with hostile energy. A ninja squad instantly jumps out of the hiding spots to immediately block their path. These trash mobs are not playing around. They prepare a flashbang to disorient the team. The screen instantly turns white. The flashbang explodes right before their eyes. The ninja dives through the smoke for a deadly strike, while Ryoichi tries to cover the children. Mikin ignores this and sends the assassin flying with a heavy kick. Her android eyes do not care about the light, and she draws her blade to finish the job. She transforms into a battle outfit, Cheongsam just like from a fighting game. Ryoichi wonders where she gets these references from. The motherly figure easily takes down the opponent without even breaking a sweat. She understands these attackers are completely empty, without any life. Someone is definitely pulling the strings of this whole family feud. In the estate, Lord Toshiaki lies on his sickbed, looking completely destroyed. Chuno literally offers them a chest full of gold to bribe them. Essentially, it is compensation to make them leave the island forever. Manaka is not from that crowd and refuses to take the bloody money. She does not back down and declares, only the head of the family can drive her out. She decided to clear Masato's name no matter how much she had to endure. For her, life without her pride is death like a current. Suddenly, the Lord's condition sharply deteriorates. Toshiaki begins coughing up blood, and the room immediately erupts into full panic. The high priest anticipates and begins casting a restoration spell, what looks like healing magic. He starts invoking spectacular light magic to save the dying lord. Suddenly, Malo throws a spell at the priest from the doorway. Enthralled spectators freeze in shock, and Malo explains she did not use combat magic. Ryoichi and the team arrive, and it turns out it was actually cleansing magic. Ryoichi used divine appraisal and caught the priest who was trying to cast a deadly curse instead of healing. Holy water reveals the true form of the priest. His human mask crumbles. It turned out that he was an undead rival, and all this time he was playing the long game. The Supreme Purifier goes mad right before everyone's eyes and transforms into an openly demonic creature. He completely loses control to aggression and lunges at Malo, shouting that he will now put an end to this cursed elf. Varen does not give him a chance and intercepts the blow before the buddy can strike. They exchange blows, but Varen realizes this adversary has considerable brute strength behind every swing. Realizing that an ordinary sword won't suffice, Varen decides to take action and calls upon the god of tailoring and sewing. He initiates the summoning of a sacred artifact, and the air is pierced by the crackle of high-level magical energy. In a moment, his equipment changes to a legendary set, and he draws the rapier of the divine winged needle. Few are simply stunned when during the clash a costume change happens right before their eyes like a magical girl transformation. Rarin barely has time on the clock for this form, so he aimed to finish the fight in one shot. He throws his Crimson Law of Virtues, the first form, and with one move tears the priest apart, turning him into red mist. The bosses disappeared instantly, but Milo is horrified. Voron just deleted the high-ranking official. Lady Chunot begins to lose control and shouts at the guards to arrest the alien from the continent for the murder of the priest. The squad is completely surrounded by samurai guards. They are already itching to draw their swords. Our guy tries to play peacemaker and explains the priest was a ghoul from the grave and they just saved the master. Chunot is in deep denial. She cannot believe that the priest could be a monster, even after seeing that demonic form. Kuro looks as if he has had a crisis of faith because he is asked to explain exactly where he actually met this priest. He admits they met on Revenant Hill, while the team realizes the master needs treatment before he falls to 0 HP. Juno keeps barking about foreigners, but Kuroa begs her to allow the group to help save her father's life. Suddenly, Masato breaks down the door and orders the old witch to shut up. Everyone is stunned that Masato is alive. He orders the visitor from the mainland to ignore the noise and just heal his father. Nanako changes into a nurse's outfit and begins a full medical scan of the bedridden master. She calls the debuff magically induced shock, but our guy is more focused on how short the skirt is. It turned out someone was deliberately hitting the master with magic from the inside to keep him sick. Since it is an ancient curse, they understand. To remove its old effects, specialized dispelling is needed. Nanako points out that Milo is the perfect battery to power this ancient magic dispersion formula. Malo just stands still with a "what now" face when he realizes they are about to drain him. They combine their stats and launch a massive dispel directly on the master. The spell ban is broken, and the master finally wakes up as if he just shed a giant debuff weighing him down. The family is wildly happy that Lord Toshiaki finally regains consciousness. The retainers start cheering wildly, as if they just won the world championship right after the master awakened. Nanako is not done, yet she drags the half-dead Malo into the next room to treat Zero. Another powerful burst of magic, dispelling the curse, bursts out as they work on the next patient. Sarah instantly recovers and gives Makako a warm welcome after the curse is lifted. Coco joins the hugs, thanking that the family is finally together again and all healthy. She begins to cry tears of joy, calling the squad her indispensable friends for saving her family. Masato keeps his mother from losing her mind. He orders Chuno to kneel and apologize. He tells how he survived after falling from a cliff and how losing his arm did not take his life hiding in a coastal cave. Chiono lowers her head and tells him to just slit her throat if that is necessary to settle everything. Masato just snorts mockingly, telling her that he does not kill women and that she is ruining his mood. She breaks down in tears only now, knowing her son is safe, finally showing true emotions. Masato tells her to save the drama and make sure she thanks the people who actually did all the hard work. He shifts his gaze to Kurao, acknowledging his brother as they prepare for whatever comes next. Korra prepares to lead forward as the guards finally lift the barrier and let the heroes pass. The fox priestess locked herself in deep prayer while the tension reached a boiling point. Masato does not budge against Kurao and says to the traitor he will repay the debt for the gift he once received, many years ago. Coco was sweating profusely and begged everyone to stop right now. After all, the the Revenant is already defeated. But Masato reveals the true leader is still unexposed and points to his missing hand as the final proof. A flash of memories shows how Kurao, with the legendary cursed sword Sasafune, cuts Masato like butter. Masato publicly condemns him for the gravest sins, the murder of his father and brother. Inside, Korra was reviewing his plans and thinking about how these strangers shattered his invulnerable magical design. He goes all out, accuses the foreigners of breaking his life, and rushes forward with a deadly strike. The two brothers clash in a high-speed duel, a pure spectacle for the eyes. Sparks fly as their blades meet in a fight for supremacy. Coral regrets not hitting the most important target then and decides it's time to sever all the ties he still has left. Masato feels the mood has changed as soon as Kurao settles into a frighteningly familiar stance. Kurao begins to direct mana towards the legendary secret technique Karinus. He unleashes Violet Lightning Lotus Slash, a giant AoE attack that covers the entire field. The strike is colossal. Masato bleeds and wonders how his brother managed to shatter it like that. Masato admits, even without the cursed sword, Kurao reached a completely different limit of strength. The adjacent yard is completely shattered by the inhuman power of this shootout. Kagero looms over his brother, mocks his broken blade, and prepares to end the clash. Suddenly Coco jumps under a hail of bullets to shield Masato. She cries bitterly, begging that kind brother from her childhood to wake up. Koro does not hear this. He insists that everyone in his family was always alone and only talent mattered to them. He felt a target in his back. Everyone was offended by his weakness, despite constantly indulging him. A flash of memories, bullies smash Corral's notebooks and research books, and Coco tries to defend him. He always felt that he was a worthless loser, inferior to his skilled older brothers. Once they too secretly honed their swordsmanship, and it was the only time he truly felt happy. And then came the day of the great tournament, and Karo really managed to knock out W against a high-ranking opponent. But that victory turned into a nightmare, because for the first time in his life, he took what was not his. He tried to do the right thing. He visited the victim's family, crushed by guilt. It was then that he overheard a conversation. The match was rigged. The father bribed officials so his incapable son would look decent. Realizing that his victory was just a pay-to-win scam, he shut himself off and hid away to study forbidden knowledge. He was driven mad by despair, and he began rummaging through those dark magical tomes that take your breath away. Eventually, he reached the Hill of the Dead and met the undead knight. The knight offered him colossal power, but for that he had to pay a terrible price. Coco realizes in horror he was about to sacrifice their entire family to repay that debt. It couldn't get any worse. The undead's knight minions have already set up camp right by the manor and are waiting to turn everyone into zombies. Kurao decides that this is the end of his humanity and rushes to slay Coco as his last victim. Ryoichi bursts in like an absolute tank and takes a fierce axe blow to the chest to save her. Corral insists there is no way back, but Ryoichi confuses him, saying he secretly wanted Coco to be safe all along. Ryoichi tells him, as soon as he spills his sister's blood, that will be the only true point of no return. Blood drips from him, but our guy still does not retreat. He stands firm to protect Coco from her own brother. The battle rages over the mansion's rooftops. Masato barely stays on his feet, and the spectators cannot understand how some rookie from the mainland managed to keep up with Beastman Pro. Sparks fly as their blades clash in a dazzling flash of steel. Our guy takes a hard hit, but still stays on his feet. His allies shout for him to retreat. One clean hit of an instant kill skill, and the game is over. Ryoichi does not retreat and stays in the fight thanks to his god-tier regeneration. He unleashes a huge cooldown and summons several clones to swarm the target. Kara is caught off guard, a sudden numerical defeat. The clones release a devastating gust of wind magic. It levels the courtyard to the ground. Kurao reveals himself so easily and jumps onto the roof to regroup. He uses his phantom blade to completely nullify the incoming magic. The Beastman is actually impressed and decides not to hold back anymore. Coral shows that he also knows how to play the clone game and creates his own shadow squad. Ryoichi is trembling with sweat when he sees how his own stratagem has turned against him. The real Korra tears through the chaos with insane speed. He deceives Ryoichi with a false afterimage and delivers a brutal blow to his back. The girls can only watch in horror as their hero is cut in half. Mikano is itching to jump in, but the knight does not let her disrupt the duel. Carol keeps the pressure at maximum and does not give Ryoichi a single second to rest. He realizes that the clones are real, physical, and begins methodically destroying them. It is total annihilation. Clones are knocked out one by one. Carol finds the real body and delivers another heavy blow. Our guy tries to use wind magic to gain a bit of distance. Carol catches him right in midair and cuts off his leg with a clean strike. Ryoichi crashes hard and tries to force his regeneration to finally start. Korak looms over him like a final boss and says that his mysterious master will be pleased. Ryoichi demands an explanation of who exactly, in his opinion, this god should be. This shadowy figure is said to have come to take revenge on the gods themselves. Their plan is to remake the world, starting with House Gebertius. Ryoichi calls him that because he is literally a demon lord. He catches Corral off guard with an unexpected kick from the ground. Karo trembles when he sees that Ryoichi's leg has fully regrown. Our guy lands a strong counterattack and insists that his power is a true gift from the gods. He charges the final blow to end the fight once and for all. Suddenly Ryoichi freezes in place, a blade grows from his chest. The phantom blade Sasaphone pierced his heart through and through. Kura used telekinesis to remotely control the blade for a sneak attack and sudden strike. He explains no recovery can save from a life-threatening hit. Ryoichi collapses to the ground, and the light in his eyes begins to fade. The girls are completely shattered when they see him fall. In the chaos, Mia and Moya disappear from the battlefield to the side. Maki's expression chills as she looks at her fallen master. The Night Lady regrets not intervening when she had the chance. Karo prepares to behead Ryoichi so that he can be resurrected as an undead Rabatsky servant. But he suddenly freezes, fixing his gaze on two small figures. Mia and Moya step forward and stand between the killer and their brother. The entire crowd is stunned by the courage of these two little sisters. Carl warns them if they don't move, he will easily cut the children too. But the girls and their familiars have already removed their protection and are ready to rush into battle. Karo charges forward to finish the job, but the little sisters do not let him get closer. Suddenly, in the middle of his sprint, he is stopped by a massive wall of wind pressure. Moira and I amplify Ao-E magic to keep the villain at a distance. Karo is sweating from the overpowering radiation coming from these children. Lily realizes the girls have connected to something ancient and blood dangerous. They have officially collided with spirit-human unity, and flowers are sprouting right before their eyes as if a legendary buff was just removed. Lily explains this is the highest level for any spirit user. Their hearts are fully synchronized. Mia looks him straight in the eyes and tells him to simply disappear. Their hurricane acceleration, and they bombard him with a storm that scatters debris across the entire space. Karo does not look like a jobber. He wields his Sasaphone blade and cuts the blizzard itself through and through. He understands that these are their glass cannons without any combat experience and tears their throats. The girls shout that they will protect Ryoichi Nai at any cost. As soon as Corral rushes forward, Coco jumps to block the strike of her own brother. He tells her to get away if she values her life, but she stands her ground. Coco tells him to prepare while she gets ready to settle the family quarrel. Their blades clash in a storm of sparks. She is ready to take responsibility for his crimes, even if she has to kill him. Suddenly Ryoichi stands up and orders her to stop. Everyone goes crazy because this guy literally had a knife stabbed right into his heart. It turned out that his chest had turned into the spirits of the gate, so the blade slid into the spiritual world without touching any organ. Lily begins to roast him for fainting from shock after all this. Ryoichi stares at Kuro with his eyes and asks if he doesn't care about his own sister. Karo doubles down on the image of the desperate warrior of slaughter, but Ryoichi doesn't buy this act. He swears to thoroughly teach Karo a lesson and return him to Coco. They clash again. The blow is colossal. Ryoichi realizes he won't win in a battle of wits, so he must engage in close combat. Kuro has been upgraded. He became stronger and faster, and every exchange of blows turns into a life-or-death bet. Kuro noticed that Ryoichi is getting stronger in real time and decided to put an end to the fight. He lands a heavy kick and prepares his final secret technique. He reveals Shiden Renzin Renjezu, a deadly whirlwind of slashing strikes. The entire space is shattered to dust, and Coco screams as the dust settles over the ruins. Corral thinks he has finally secured a W. A gigantic explosion of wind magic burst from the rubble. Karo is stunned. The pressure is even higher than before. The sisters understand. Ryoichi has finally reached the very form they once attained. The time of unity of spirit and people, and Ryoichi looks like a true boss. He moves with such insane speed that he almost merges into a continuous blur. Ryoichi feels energy rushing through his body like a wave, as if he just drank 10 elixirs. Karo tries to call the bluff, but Ryoichi is already looming over him from above. He delivers a devastating blow, causing Carol to start coughing up blood. Karab can no longer even keep up with the speed of movement. Ryoichi completely neutralizes him, snatching the legendary blade Sasafune right out of the air. Here, with one final strike, the battle is decided. Moonlight falls on the ruined mansion, and the dust finally disperses. Ryoichi stands over the fallen opponent, completely exhausted. The Quran demands explanations, why he is spared after all he has done. He is crushed under the rubble, and he awaits the end. Ryoichi admits that he saw Karo hesitate before wounding Koko, and by this shows that he still has some humanity left. He gives Kyuri the cursed blade, and Kyura thinks this is the move of a complete idiot. Burning with shame, Carol raises the dagger to end his life. Koko bursts in and with one strike, knocks the blade right out of his hand. She yells at him for being selfish and a coward, and orders him to atone for his guilt by living on. She reminds him, no matter what happens, he is still her brother. Carol finally drops the mask and admits he cannot force himself to hurt her again. Under the full moon, he finally admits his complete defeat. Karo was officially thrown in the trash. He sits behind bars after his colossal betrayal. The Hebrideus family is now deep in a meeting. They are arguing whether to simply remove his character for trying to take down the entire clan. But Koko is not about a life where you are executed like a sentence. She will beg for exile because she thinks that the meritocratic system is what broke him. Even the old man was almost moved to tears. He realized Kuro's crazy fencing was born from pure, fanatical obsession. The mood is tense, the land of the dead is still prowling somewhere nearby, and the family must fortify the estate against the undead onslaught. They have posted guards all around the perimeter so that not a single trash mob can squeeze through the gates. Fortunately, on site is the A-rank adventurer, Lord Orion Bark, helping to hold the defense. While everyone is celebrating, our Ryoichi notices the body of the tall monk has completely disappeared as if he never existed. The A-ranker goes out to patrol the perimeter he knows. Those undead ninjas usually just dissolve into the fog when destroyed. Turns out her intuition works with cracks, because that tall monk thief is still alive sitting in a tree and camping openly. He realizes the mission has failed and orders the squad to withdraw, as the heroes are already holding the defense. He is sorry that Carol couldn't even finish the job, so he decides this land is no longer worth such exhaustion. The undead army retreats into the shadows, declaring this plan a minor defeat. Turning back to the house, Malo struggles with a severe sugar shortage. Ryoichi and the girls are stuck in a coma. Transmagic has placed a huge debuff on the body. He almost managed to sneak in to give his future wife a kiss to wake her up, while her mana was almost gone. But the Medroid is a real sadist. It hits Malo with a taser for trying to contaminate the master with foreign substances. Morning knocks and Milo is still waiting for his sugar dose. The culinary expert is still unconscious. She is so desperate that she tries to eat a ration that is a century old, and it tastes simply disgusting. Meanwhile, the family learns the tall monk is definitely an immortal of a special rank, and he has already left the island. Kurao still refuses to speak in his cell, but his mother prays incessantly that he finds a path of atonement. The father decides the family needs to strengthen ties so they are not divided and conquered again. Ryoichi finally opens his eyes and sees Malo has curled up on the floor from that disgusting ration. She is dreaming of sweets, so Ryoichi rushes to the kitchen to rally the team. He gets to work and cooks traditional ashiroko, and the girls look as if they just pulled out a 5-star unit. They are on a full high from mochi and the perfect level of sweetness. The Fox brothers appear and ignite a huge debate about whether it is ashiruko or zenzai, depending on how coarsely the beans are mashed. Ryoichi has to drop a bit of lore and explain. The names change depending on which region of Japan you are in. The brothers take one bite and realize this food is top-notch. The secret ingredient is soy sauce, and just the aroma is enough to distract and calm everyone in the room. They are so energized that they want to immediately start a business empire selling this product. Even the parents are impressed by Ryoichi's culinary skills. The mother doesn't waste a second. She asks directly and straightforwardly when the wedding will take place. Koko trembles with fear and even blushes crimson, but the mother is already sure Ryoichi is the perfect husband for her. The father is so excited that he wants to open a new martial arts school together with his son-in-law. He even passes down the family legendary treasure, the Hauga sword. It is a huge loot drop that the family rarely even sees, let alone owns. Ryoichi tries to refuse the gift, but Koko says that he is destined to fight high-level bosses. Suddenly, a goodwill ambassador named Sujitani-sama approaches them on horseback. He brings grave news. The undead are planning a full-scale military invasion of other countries. They want to offer Karo a deal of guilt recognition to extract more information about the enemy's spawn point. Karo goes outside and reveals a terrible secret. Half of his body has already turned into the undead. He explains if he had been executed properly, he would have simply turned into a mindless puppet of the undead king. He now truly wants to return to his family because he can hear their voices from the cell thanks to his enhanced undead hearing. He tore out the heart of darkness even if he has to stay in prison forever. Coco was simply happy that her brother had returned to the family again. Karo orders Ryoichi to take care of his sister while he goes to accept the deal. The ambassador asks which country will be hit next. Malo is still happily chewing his candies. But the mood changes instantly as we learn. The undead are marching straight to the elven homeland Centrius, Silavan, the kingdom. The party docks at the port of Aikgu Island to prepare for the next stage of the journey. Looking at the universal map, they saw their goal is the kingdom of Centria Sylvan. To it is a huge distance from the place where they are now. The expedition understands, to reach the northeastern part of the Karaslaya kingdom, they still have to cover a considerable distance. Malo is already completely losing her head with joy. She's sure that Ryoichi is returning home to solemnly marry her. She tries to remain calm and explains, her kingdom is a natural fortress, protected by a sacred forest and elite elf warriors. The local merchant orders our guy to take a rest and let his exhausted body recover before moving on. Late that night, Milo is overwhelmed by a wave of emotions on the ship's deck. Mike immediately notices how the plumbing works and activates surveillance, but Malo begs the android not to betray her for crying. Malo decides to share the legend of a hero named Dorado, who once saved the Elven Kingdom. She was enchanted by his story since childhood and even conducted her own historical investigation about him. Mike, in a conversation about brute force Malo, is just heated because of Ryoichi. He resembles her hero. Malo admits the real problem is how exactly the hero's story ends. She tries to brush it off, saying it's a fabrication later, exaggerated by envious historians. The ship finally approaches the Cook Report under the morning sun. It's time for the party to part with the merchants while they head to the capital. They check the map once more, planning to strike the city of Randall before heading north. Their carriage rides for a long time, and Malo says she nearly fainted before receiving a divine hint. They finally reach the gates of Randall, a city that looks simply gigantic. It's noisy here, and above the city towers, a gigantic temple. It immediately draws everyone's gaze. Malo explains that this is the Temple of Savath, the highest-ranking deity in the world. The architecture of the temple is purely legendary. Mahalo tells the group that they need to pray here to show respect, and she wants to receive a blessing from the god who controls all magic. When they kneel, the priest calls upon the gods so that their blessings may fall upon them. Suddenly, the entire squad is covered by a colossal buff one that happens once in a century. Even Mikan receives a divine gift, a thing practically unheard of for non-humans. A tall priest approaches them and says that this can only be the work of the supreme god. Priest Michael Sama reports that the supreme god Sevath has actually appeared and is waiting for them. He leads the stunned group to the inner sanctuary, where the light blinds. Our guy enters and finds the entire pantheon of gods in the room, who are just sitting and doing nothing. Malo is so overwhelmed with emotions that he arranges a full-fledged kowtow, falls to the floor, and bows to the ground. Sivas tells Ryoichi to relax, because as a transmigrant, he is essentially a friend of the gods. The girls are simply amazed when they learn that Ryoichi is a transmigrant from another world. Sivath says he is letting the secret out because the party truly deserves trust. Ryoichi finally sighs with relief, no longer needing to hide his origin. The goddess begins to drop a heavy lore about Dorado, another transmigrant from 500 years ago. Dorado survived a tragic fall. Ultimately, he destroyed his own kingdom and took his own life. But he did not remain dead. He resurrected as the king of the undead and built a new nation of monsters. Now his undead state targets the Elven Kingdom. He secretly transforms key figures into undead to increase his power. Due to divine rules, gods can directly intervene in the actions of the reincarnated. Thus, Sivath assigns Ryoichi the task to defeat King Dorado and stop his mad assault. Ryoichi is drenched in sweat. His opponent is immortal and has 5 centuries of combat experience behind him. Seventh points out that Ryoichi's divine adaptation makes him the perfect counterbalance to the king's curse. In such a short time, he has already gained more power than he himself realizes. If they wait even a little longer, Dorado will become impossible to stop. Ryoichi gets into the rhythm and accepts the mission to protect the home of his friends. When the gods disappear, Ryoichi is left alone with exhausting pressure and feels completely empty. Malo began to giggle wildly, describing every elite-level god who was simply standing before them. Suddenly, the water goddess Undine appears again to greet her dear priestess. As a reward for her efforts, Undine gives Malo a special gift. Malo receives a legendary ring, and her brain completely malfunctions from the excitement. Next, Yask, the god of woodworking, takes Ryoichi aside for a talk. He has been watching from the very beginning and explains that Ryoichi once played with a simple axe. He jokes that our guy will need a sword axe for future high-level battles. Sylphina, the god of wind, suddenly appears and Lily Spirit is in a mad panic because of the huge boss. Other gods watch from the side wondering why everyone was so affected by the transformation. Returning to the inn, Ryoichi feels the divine meeting knocked him out of his body as if his soul was about to fly out. Dinner time, but Malo is nowhere to be found. Shizui rereads the news and catches the thought. The fact that Ryoichi is a transmigrant explains much more. Girls joke that the boys from another world probably have some kind of passive, hidden charm. Ryoichi decides to go out at night to search for Malo. Our guy finds Malo and tries to calm her down after a tense day. He solemnly swears that he will not betray and will protect her homeland at any cost. Meanwhile, in the eerie fortress, the atmosphere is even darker. The reckless rider named Dylan apologizes to his king for failing to recruit the swordsman from Kakinatsu. King Dorado sits on his throne and is strangely satisfied. The target stubbornly survived his indoctrination skill. The king is not worried about morale. He says his victims will eventually start worshipping him anyway. He has ended the secrets and is preparing to declare a merciless war. He insists that his kingdom is a paradise for those whom life itself persecutes. He brushes off the thought of exploitative leadership and calls his realm a zombie company. The first target for destruction becomes the Elven Kingdom. When the world is conquered, King Dorado plans to take the fight all the way to the gods themselves. The team is preparing for a serious journey to the sacred mountain. They have prepared and loaded the carriage for the long road. Our guy Ryoichi learns that Mount Jorai is guarded by the sword of Saint Makanati. It seems that becoming a sword saint is the highest peak for any sword user in this world. Ryoichi feels the pressure holding the legendary sword Heiaga because he still considers himself a complete amateur. Carrie quickly shuts this down and says that his growth rate is actually insane. Ryoichi knows this is because of his 10xxb buff, but Coco is the one really sweating over her power level. She shocks the company with a real bombshell. She asks for time alone to go train her stats. She leaves the carriage, she is gone. Little Moyarjalev is devastated and begins to sob because her rival has disappeared. Mia tries to hold it together and promises that Coco will return much stronger. Coco watches as they disappear into the distance, while she stands completely alone. She is terrified to death that if she loses to the King of the Dead, she will simply become another monster. She will not allow another tragedy to repeat, one like the one that befell her brother Kurao. Our girl sets off at full speed and begins a long climb up the mountain to receive the blessing of the sword god. Meanwhile, the rest of the party finally reaches the capital. Welcome to Riaz, the vast capital of the centrist country of Derivo. The place is amazingly peaceful. Musicians play on the streets while war approaches. Malo simply sighed with relief upon seeing that her house had not yet caught fire and immediately began thinking with her head, but actually with her gut. They find a place where they distribute truly top-tier trophies, and in the form of a banquet at that. Ryoichi savors the local flavors, while Malo practically swallows the food nonstop. She said that she used to come here to relieve stress and overeat whenever her mentor, the high priest, became frightening. She is in despair. She thinks that for all her past antics up to the point where she drooled on magical books, she will be punished. Suddenly, a voice calls Malo from the other end of the room. This is the high priestess Torka herself, and Malo looks as if she has seen a ghost. Torka is simply glad that Malo did not starve to death during her pilgrimage. It turns out the high priestess is just as gluttonous. She burns all her calories using high-level magic. She introduces herself to the group, while Malo tries to stay unnoticed. Torka cannot take her eyes off Ryoichi, no matter how hard she tries. She says he has a good, warm, and gentle aura like someone from her past. Malo does not accept this and says to her, "Can you please restrain yourself and not flirt with my beloved?" Ryoichi vehemently denies the relationship, and Torka is just surprised that Malo is even interested in boys. Torka looks like a true Angeland. This is a great relief for the whole team. She asks if they have seen any commotion in the town of Randall. Torka reveals the whole temple is buzzing because the gods appeared and gave divine revelations. Malo trembles and sweats through to the bone before showing Torka the ring of purity she received. Torka is simply deeply impressed. She says that in her 500 years of life, she has been shocked only twice. Ryoichi cannot believe that she is actually immortal, and Malo explains, high elves simply do not age like everyone else. Torka is a little embarrassed about her appearance, but recalls that her sister tragically died several centuries ago. Then she asks a difficult question. She asks Ryoichi if his homeland is called Nihon. Ryoichi trembles at the fact that she knows about Japan. Torka reveals that she was actually a servant of the legendary hero Dorado, and he was also from Japan. The whole party is stunned when a lore drop occurs. From afar, the city looks peaceful, but secrets are pressing heavier and heavier. Ryoichi realizes Torka must know that hero Dorado eventually became the king of the undead. He cannot understand why she treats him so gently if he resembles the man who turned into a nightmare. Malo decides that it is time to check the native village, while Torka goes to report to the king about the undead invasion. They are heading to Morris Village, a key defensive point near the border. The village is hidden in the forest and looks like a classic starting settlement in fantasy. The local elves immediately recognize Malo and start giving her food. The elven woman who looks like a sister is actually Malo's grandmother. The whole village gathers to welcome the younger ones. Carrie boosts self-esteem until Mia clarifies the kind remark was meant for the children. Ryoichi notices, despite everyone looking young, they carry a heavy, gloomy old aura. Malo warns him not to underestimate them, they are all skilled warriors. Then Malo's father Paro appears and looks like a real boss with a giant axe. Malo introduces Ryoichi as a person very dear to her. Papuga remains calm and offers them a place to spend the night. He asked Ryoichi to go with him for a private conversation. Mia feels how the signals of great danger flash too brightly as soon as the guys move on. Returning to the mountain, Coco fights for her own life against the onslaught of garbage mobs. She is exhausted and covered in blood, but refuses to stop. Eventually, she reaches the Toriv gates at the summit. The disguised servants announced that the new apprentice has finally arrived. The swordswoman Saint Mikanata is waiting for her inside the temple. Mikanata feels Coco's burning desire to reach the top and tells her to show her strength. The entire squad is already equipped to survive this direct funeral shift without delay. Returning to Tree City, everyone gathered around the war map. The plan is simple: don't let these rotten brains pass through the gate. She made a bunch of flexes with the new Ring of Purity, essentially a holy buff for the entire team. The Elven brothers are ready to step out in the glow of glory, but Malo does not accept this. She warns them, if they surrender, they will simply add to the enemy's combat roster as recruits. Our guy Ryoichi approaches not just casually, with serious heavyweights like the A-rank legend Catherine. Even the support team is gathered from Mia, Moi, and Miss Hika. They also join the clash. Ryoichi gave Miss Hika her name, and she holds on as if she just pulled a 5-star level unit. She is already ready to cover the rear, while the heavy artillery heads to the front line. The scout notices movement, and the mood immediately plunges into an abyss. Face to the ground under hoods, a cold wave hits the fortress. The commander signals the long-range units to open fire. It is a rain of magic and arrows that looks like a continuous bullet hell. The mobs don't care solid tanks that persistently push through explosions without flinching. They start throwing ladders to break through the walls. Ryoichi and Catherine start farming trash mobs as soon as they reach the top. The Elven army actually holds and imposes its will in close combat. The undead repeatedly respond, and Ryoichi already feels how this run begins to wear down his strength. He hates that they still look human because of this. Each of his strikes seems somewhat cursed. The little brother Malo, Terran, appears to pair up and support the defense. He tells Ryoichi to go out and rest, while the priestess tends to the healing. The first wave is cleared, but the boss feels the real raid has just begun. A gigantic silhouette emerges from the fog. It is a genuine undead dragon, and it is many times larger than the one they rolled up earlier. It is a relative of the dragon from Melsar Island, and it seeks true revenge. The beast completely ignores the fortress and flies straight to the capital. It heads to Rias, to the heart of the kingdom. The capital is carved right into a giant world tree. It looks like a continuous final hub. The dragon dives forward to finish off. He charges an attack with an air breath that will wipe the entire zone off the face of the earth. Boom! A huge hex grid barrier emerges just in time, preventing a breach. Princess Torka and the High Priest are soaked with sweat to keep the shield active. Suddenly, a skeletal knight named Dylan lands on the dragon's head. He is a former hero broken by corruption, now struggling with the princess's insults. Dylan laughs and says, "The shield is useless if it is broken from within." At that moment, the temple guard attacked the priests. They had been undead in disguise all along. The barrier begins to crack, and the priests are slaughtered. The dragon opens its jaws for a close-range shot. As if from nowhere, a giant blade cuts across the dragon's neck. The dragon crashes down, flooding everything with a fountain of black blood. And finally, Grand General Gustav from the Royal Army appears to finally do his job. Dylan is not worried about reinforcements at all. He insists that he has a trump card that will make the entire army surrender and lay down their arms. Returning to the fortress, Ryoichi begins to buzz about his negotiations. This is Kirika. She is crying and calling for help. During the tea party in the capital, the guards betrayed the noble children and seized them. Now Karika, the prince, and the rest of the princesses are locked in the dungeon as the main leverage against the enemy. The princesses are kept in cages like ordinary loot from drops. This undead commander is wildly twisting and declares to the royal army that he holds life and death over the nobility. He insists that the kingdom's punitive campaigns against the undead make this total war inevitable. He has never had a chance for peace, only a brutal fight to the death. Since the dead keep resurrecting anyway, he sees the princesses as nothing more than expendable goods. The general staff is wildly boiling over such disrespect, while there are small scales in her cell. Locked in the dungeon, Kirika tries not to lose heart. She tells Prince Karatoros that Ryoichi will definitely get them out of there. Princess Small squeezes the music box and finds some courage in Ryoichi's kind voice through the recording. Suddenly, a terrifying high-level undead mage appears in the room to steal her magical instrument. Kiriko refuses to give up her treasury, and Ryoichi hears this whole scene from beginning to end through his. Mishika immediately fixed herself at her location. The target is the top floor of the old expensive castle, a gigantic undead fortress. Ryoichi does not wait for reinforcements and decides to go on a raid alone. The guards try to pull aggro, but our guy moves too fast they can't react in time. He sharply jumps into the air without any hesitation. One clean strike and the giant skeleton instantly collapses. His allies go crazy. He sweeps these mobs as if it's nothing, as if his characteristics automatically adjust to any opponent he encounters. He cuts through an entire squad of guards in a single shot. The undead beast tries to flank him, but is too slow to catch up. Makika provides long-range support, shooting the second wave with an electromagnetic spear. And Ryoichi uses wind spirit magic to create literal platforms in the sky. The people of Kiev are already asking if he is even human. He flies to the castle like a character with a cheat code. Returning to the base, Malo feels guilty he still failed to stop his reckless attack. She asks her father for a warhorse to join the fight. She heads straight to the capital, Rise, despite the threat of the dragon. She saw the destruction with her own eyes and will not allow anyone to go through that again. Her father tries to squeeze her out of the lava because it's for her safety, but she does not give up. Carrie-sen steps forward and becomes her bodyguard and does not come empty-handed. She has a fire spirit named Willius ready for battle. And she even made Krakenshin, the water spirit from that pirate fight, sign a contract. This spirit can move through space and teleport itself anywhere to places it has already been. Ryoichi finally reaches the undead castle and begins infiltration. He knows if the main squad spots him, the mission is over. He pulls up his hood for a quiet passage, and Machika keeps the GPS on Kirika turned on. In the dungeon, the sorcerer's shadow looms over its prey. Kirika Corner demands he explain how the music box works. He threatens to kill her and resurrect her as a brainless zombie. Before Ryoichi can swing, he strikes like lightning and stabs him through the chest with a knife. He tears off Kirika's shackles while the sorcerer screams in wild pain at the top of his lungs. "I am glad that you are safe, Kirika-chen." They have a quick emotional meeting, but still need to save others. There are too many soldiers in the corridors, breaking through cleanly from there won't work. Worse yet, that mage has fast recovery, and he has already returned for the second round. Being a high-ranking undead means his resurrection is almost instantaneous. They are completely surrounded by a wall of blades. Ryoichi picks up Kirika in his arms like a princess. He begins to direct an incredible mass of wind mana. A giant cyclone opens up and tears trash mobs from their place, scattering them to the sides. And the final boss of this location just threw the doors off and smashed them with blows. This armored tank is enraged by all the noise in his castle. The wizard immediately begins to humbly beg his master for forgiveness. The boss lowers his gaze to the frail little girl in Ryoichi's arms. He feels something familiar in this boy. He recognizes Ryoichi as Japanese and warns, if he crosses the line, he will be sent back to the dirt. King Dorado looks intently at Ryoichi Ishikawa, recognizing in him a one-dimensional traveler from another world. Ryoichi calls him by name, and Dorado insists that he threw that identity into the trash long ago. He says the only people who could possibly know his real name are his old members of the adventure team. Now his only goal is to turn every person into a zombie to gather an army that can stand against the gods. Dorado tells that he was once a hero. He saved the Princess Sinusk from the high elven lineage named Senri from the demon. Kingen fell in love with her. They married and built a kingdom together, but the dreamed happy ending turned out to be a huge trap. Senri was pregnant and just wanted a peaceful world for her child. But Dorado began to hear the voice of an evil god, whispering that a human and a high elf would never have a child. Dorado immediately pounced on her and demanded to explain how she could have gotten pregnant at all. He refused to believe it was a miracle and left, leaving her crying on the floor. The voice belonged to a treacherous deity who had previously made a pact with the demonic King Dorado, who had already been defeated. This deity mocked Dorado, tells him that he will always be a stranger in a world created for the amusement of the gods. Rumors of the queen's betrayal spread throughout the castle, and Dorado began to behave coldly reserved and distant. The nobility did not trust him because he was of a different race, and over time, Dorado caught Senri talking with a high elven knight named Dylan. Dylan had served Senri's family since childhood, and Dorado's jealousy reached a boiling point. Senri tried to find him and explained Dylan was only giving her advice on how to deal with the rumors. She was truly happy and was preparing a grand celebration for the pregnancy. But the cunning god pushed Dorado over the edge, shouting that the child belonged to the knight. Dorado jerked and plunged the blade straight into Senri's chest. He erupted into a full berserker rage and began clearing the entire castle while the staff fled in panic. But he finally came to his senses, standing amid the burning ruins. Dorado stared in horror at his hands, bloodied up to the palms, and realized what he had done. He found Senri's body in the ruins and let out a soul-breaking scream. He tried to take his own life, wondering if he was being controlled or if he was simply a monster. He tore his way through the debris, barely holding on to his sanity. He tried again to take his own life, but the wounds healed instantly. Dorado realized that perhaps he was truly undead now. Suddenly, the people he had killed rose from the rubble and swore eternal loyalty to him. His kingdom became a true graveyard overnight, and inside he felt only emptiness. He ignited a burning desire for revenge against the gods who had taken everything from him. He decided to turn all living beings into undead to kill the gods and remake the world. In the present, Ryoichi could not believe it. Could such a distorted deity really exist? Dorado senses a drop of his past in Ryoichi and calls him to join his cause. Our boy refuses to sacrifice innocent people, regardless of Dorado's tragic history. Dorado decides to seize him by force, and Ryoichi launches a god-level clone technique to carve out some breathing room. He orders Lily to take Kirikou and the clone to the safe zone. The clone breaks through enemies with a book, while Ryoichi stays behind to draw attention. Lily is shocked. The clone is actually capable of holding a conversation, but Ryoichi explains the blessing of the chief god enhanced his abilities. Dorado is impressed and says he wants Ryoichi to join him even more. The king rushes forward, tearing through Ryoichi's clones with incredible power. Ryoichi is crushed. A huge diagonal blow strikes him across the chest. Dorado notices that Ryoichi is using regeneration technique and mocks him for being just like the undead. He gives Ryoichi a final choice: surrender now or die and serve him as a zombie. Ryoichi refuses both options, so Dorado decides it's time to end the fight. Dorado lowers his huge sculpted blade to the head for the finishing strike. The High Priestess brings out her inner raid boss so that the magical barrier is not broken. Centrius is currently collapsing under a colossal DPS. Check the dragon rages with hellfire over the capital. The elven knights are sweating with fear. The barrier is about to crack like a cheap protective screen. Priestess Turka decides to go all in. She prepares a forbidden sealing spell that will take away all her remaining life. Their team is bursting at the seams. Losing the top support means the end for the kingdom. Malo teleports him just like a literal saving moment to stop the suicide attempt. She steps through the portal as if she just snatched some secret strategy out of the air. She claims that her new power amplifier comes from the power of love, and this leaves everyone completely confused. Turns out love was just a giant hunger debuff, and her stomach immediately starts begging for a ration. While she is busy snacking, this cheeky undead warrior decides to crash the party to settle an old debt. Torka tells everyone to be on alert because this buddy is already ready to throw punches. The dragon tries to burn the team with fire, but from the sky, like a comet, a new rival falls. He literally splits the dragon's skull with one clean strike, and only then greets the undead knight as an old rival. Orion Bark is noticeably irritated that this guy survived their last encounter. The royal army is confused. They do not understand if this high-level unit is really on their side. This true giant shows that Ryoichi goes off to save the princesses, while he himself stays behind to teach these undead freaks a lesson. They collide instantly. Blades flash so fast, as if the frame rate dropped in the shot. Unnoticed by all, the undead knight turned out to be amazingly resilient. He takes blows that would have long erased him. He is offended when compared to a mere beast. He radiates that serious energy of a final boss. The sword plays on the edge, both sides exchange blows, and a whole shower of sparks flies. And the undead knight gets a lucky mole. He shoots a spear and pierces our guy through the chest, even showing off, displaying his immortal essence. Meanwhile, in the undead castle, everything looks completely devastated. A massive armored titan towers over the ruins of total trampling. King Dorado actually apologizes for going overboard after turning the floor into a bloody massacre. Ryuichi tries to pull off a scheme with clone attacks, but Dorado tracks him effortlessly. Our guys decided to keep going, no matter how many retries it takes. Dorado pierces two versions of himself at once in one move, as if playing Fruit Ninja. Ryoichi thinks he landed a fatal blow to the king's heart, but there's a solid wall there. Dorado actually enjoys this fight, calling Ryoichi an interesting toy. He starts tearing the clones apart, as if they were made of paper. He grabs the real Ryoichi by the throat and immediately ends the guessing game. He figured it out because the legendary sword Ryoichi holds is too high-level to be replicated. Dorado sends him flying with a punch one that probably broke all his bones. The blow is colossal. Ryoichi's sword is ripped from his hands, and he spins away, falling back as soon as it hits the deck. Ryoichi realizes the power gap is just too big. Dorado is simply built differently. The gaze dims, and he can barely summon one more clone to stay in the game. Passive regeneration slows down, which means he no longer has heals. Dorado stands over him and offers mercy, to become an undead slave to escape the pain. Just as he is ready to finish the job, out of nowhere the spirit wolf bursts out and lunges forward. The wolf catches Dorado by surprise and bites into him, clamping onto his face with pure aggression. Ryoichi senses the spirit. It says, "Sorry," and Ryoichi understands. He is not alone yet. A new ally enters the arena, picks up the blade, and prepares to challenge the king. This is Coco, youth Gebertius, and she has come to restore her family's honor. She focuses on a counterattack, and now the real heat begins. Sari does not lose a single second. She rushes at the king of the undead. Our girl engages in a bloody steel confrontation with the boss, and he suddenly realizes that she is actually Corral's younger sister. He plays the role of a bold, self-satisfied whale, claiming that his defeated crowds will still react later. Shock waves from their trade are simply insane. The girl brags that Sorai and her squad are just future reinforcements for his undead army. "Today is your death day," she shouts, and her wolf spirit companion draws aggro. A giant energy vortex begins to swirl over the battlefield. Time to strengthen the spirit-human unity. She calls the ancestral blade, howling with fangs, "Give me strength." Both fighters tighten their gear. Before the final high-stakes exchange, she really hits the strike and cuts off the knight's arm, flooding the fountain with blood. So Ori threatens to take his head next, but the boss just laughs as if he has some hidden phase. Suddenly the severed hand jumps out of nowhere and attacks her, strangling without words. "So I caught you," the knight arrogantly yells, while Sorai struggles to breathe with all her might. He threatens to break her neck if she does not drop her inventory. Having no other choice, she lowers the sword so that it hits the floor. The knight begins a ritual to turn her into undead, and Sari remembers her brother's cursed sword. And he immediately recognizes the legendary Sasafuni. She reveals the curse of the blade. Whoever holds it will be covered by misfortune, and there will be no mercy. "I will immediately return this misfortune to you now," she screams wildly and snatches a hidden dagger. She releases a pinpoint ultimate, in the style of a current, a tandem strike with two blades. The entire hall explodes with a whirlwind of petals and steel. The king of the undead finally disappears into the folds, and Sari rushes forward to check on Ryoichi. Our guy is disoriented and thinks he is hallucinating, but she says they need to move. "I'm here," she says, giving him some much-needed support. The boss finally collapses and falls powerless, but they need to evacuate before the dungeon collapses. All this castle is simply falling apart around them. It literally crumbles into pieces. Somewhere in the distance, tremors tear a hole in the prison wall, and the boys get a chance to escape. They decide to take the risk, rather than wait in the cell for certain death. They glance at the next room and try to sit quietly. Almost silently, a mysterious shadow appears, and approaching, declares that she is also a prisoner. This is Senri, an undead woman of Dorado, and she looks like the main plot device. The children freeze in shock as a new player enters the field. Senri reveals a heavy lore tale about her past life. She was doomed to a trash ban until the Lord picked her up. She lived like a queen in a gilded cage. Servants fulfilled her every whimsical gesture. The master would stop only for a moment to rest, keeping everything quiet but calm. He even gave her a luxurious ornament, which made her burst with joy. The more she celebrated, the darker his aura became. He was not angry at her, but the thirst for revenge against some unknown enemy sparked a full-scale war. When the war became even bloodier, his rage reached its limit. Senri could not just sit and watch him lose himself, so she begged the children to help her get out. Prince Calitros and Princess Small tremble with fear. The king is essentially a villain who destroyed their lives. Senori does not care about politics. She only needs to save the man she loves from his own hatred. Princess Small finally realizes that this is real, but a company is already approaching. Someone is walking down the corridor, forcing everyone to switch to silence mode and hide. It's just Ryoichi and Kirika finally stepping forward. The reunion is warm. Ryoichi receives well-deserved credit for the great rescue. Princess Small is already falling in love with the vibe of a good hero, but the spirit cat will not swallow this. The cat senses a high level of illness lurking in the shadows in the room and warns Ryoichi to stay cold-blooded. Small jumps to stop the aggression and explains that Senri is a pacifist. Ryoichi finds an electronic lock protected by a massive magical barrier. He pulls out the divine confirmation of power and breaks the code in seconds. As soon as he gets inside, he plants a logic bomb. King Dorado is already mapped out and broken. Senri is completely confused. She thought her master was an immortal raid boss. This stubborn masked trash mob appears again and stubbornly refuses to stay dead. Suddenly, the whole castle goes into hysteria as an earthquake hits it. Small debris falls everywhere as the structure surrenders. Ryoichi and the fox girl realize they must immediately evacuate the hostages. A giant blade bursts through the floor like a meteor. This is King Dorado's signature weapon. The man himself emerges from the ruins, grabs the handle, and pulls. He has returned from the edge and feels more powerful than ever. Foxgirl goes crazy. The undead king has just resurrected himself. He decides to stop the game and releases the true form of the cursed sword. He waves a wave of dark energy, and it covers the entire room. Ryoichi and his partner are hanging by a thread. The dark aura is so oppressive that Ryoichi cannot even move. But just as Senri is about to finish everything, he steps right into the line of fire. She begs him to drop the sword before he completely rots, and it eats his soul. The masked undead tries to white knight for the king lunges at the traitor. Dorado does not accept this and erases the masked boy from reality for going too far. Princess Small takes a few short steps and drops a music box. It falls and starts playing a familiar melody. Henry picks it up and begins to sing along with the lyrics about ranks and awards. The melody hits Dorado like a truck, and his murderous intent instantly vanishes. His aura fades when he tells Senri to hold a concert. But there is a problem. This box is complete junk, and he loses only one verse. Ryoichi understands that this is their only chance and declares that he can fix the magical instrument. They demand a temporary pause while Ryoichi takes tools from the repair kit and starts fixing. It is a surreal scene. The hero repairs a toy, and the final boss sits and waits. Princess Small says that it is just an old children's song from the capital. Ryoichi turns the key, and the music flows perfectly. Senri sings the full version, and it triggers a huge memory of when they were alive. She remembers promising to build a kingdom with him. In the memories, she confesses her love to a boy named Shin. Dorado's eyes widen sharply as the true memories return like an avalanche. His name is Shin. They share a quiet moment, and the tension finally releases. But the sword is filled with rage and begins to say that Senri is interfering again. The voice calls itself an evil god. The real villain was the cursed saber from the very beginning. The evil god finally shows his face, and here is the trouble. This villain looks insanely disheveled. Torka and the priests bet everything on a giant thermonuclear fusion ring, but the villain just laughs, saying this is just a usual feudal quarrel. The temple begins to collapse as the rough pressure of the barrier, shattered into pieces, sends shock waves everywhere. The general mocks them for burning mana on a move that simply failed completely and fell apart like a bad gotcha pull. But Torka has not given up. yet she wheezes that this was not an offensive spell at all. She understands that magic is the power to fulfill true desires and puts her heart into it. Her consciousness flies back 500 years exactly to the day when everything went awry and a monster loomed over her. Dylan was ready to give his life to buy her time. He ordered her to live on for him and for Queen Centauri. He regretted nothing as long as he could choose where to hold the last defense. Turning to the present, Torka shouts, "Holy rain," as the sky splits open with blinding light. She prays to heal the lost souls, while the light burns through that huge undead dragon. The dragon emits a straight death rattle as its body begins to melt under the sacred pressure. The knights are confused until they realize the rain actually heals their wounds, not folds them. Thanks to precise spatial teleportation from Krakenshin, Team Mirror barely survived the explosion. Even Shin suddenly starts breaking out of the trance and cannot understand what the hell he was doing all this time. Torka pours every last drop of mana and emotion into the spell, tears streaming down her face like a hailstorm. Shin realizes the rain feels like the tears of his beloved as he begins to break apart into gusts of wind. The entire army of undead and the dragon are wiped off the map, turning into nothing but dusty nothingness. The priests understood. They only won because Tora's wish was a copy of the legendary magic of Sister Senri. They remember how Senri used forbidden magic and paid the highest price to seal the evil inside Shin. Shin is completely shaken. The woman he betrayed actually saved his life. And the demonic sword begins to babble and bring shame. It says it was only waiting for its time and gathering strength in it. The sword falls and reveals a huge secret. The boy whom Shin thought he had killed is actually his own flesh and blood. Shin goes mad and shouts, "Why was all this?" and guilt covers him like a truck. In a fit of rage, he tries to smash the sword, but it is too resilient. The sword laughs fiercely and says, "They have merged. If it falls down, Shin will be erased too." The blade decides that the old bearer is done and tells Shin, "Let him die," then it aims at Ryoichi. Ryoichi does not hesitate and rushes to help, drawing aggro from the king, who is already dying. Shin cannot believe it. Our guy finally takes him under protection after all the trouble he caused. Ryoichi admits he cannot truly hate a compatriot who went through the same ice-sky path. The sword sees a new chance and decides Ryoichi is the perfect new vessel to possess. Demonic energy wildly tears forward, and Sari screams as Ryoichi is engulfed by darkness. The dark mana cracks Ryoichi's skin like armor as possession overwhelms and firmly grips him. A terrible new form bursts out of the body of Ryoichi, and Sari freezes in complete shock. The evil god has officially descended and is already ready to have fun with his new toy. He mocks the group, saying that Ryoichi was just a discarded eggshell for his true form. Sorai does not accept this and screams in frenzy that our guys with their regenerative abilities will not let him go in such a state. She draws her blade ready to plunge into the very heart of the party, even if they clamp it on her head. The god is just playing, mocking her because she got so worked up over her supposed lover. Sawari runs on pure remnants of strength and tries to summon one last spirit unity. Basilka simply boasts to her, God does not get tired, and he instantly heals after any blow. Shin retreats back into the very thick of it for the final clash, shouting, "Evil god, I will be your opponent." Senri begs him to stop, while another Ryoichi simply sits calmly in the very center of this chaos. The god tries to erase the sitting Ryoichi, thinking he is just a pathetic remnant of a clone. But the attack is completely repelled by a high-level barrier, and the god is distorted. Out of nowhere appears a huge divine artifact, and the spirit of the fox explains that it is not a clone at all. Turns out Ryoichi pulled a pro-gamer move. He was fighting a duplicate all along, while the real one stayed safe. The evil god almost chokes with rage, even he was completely fooled by the trickery. The real Ryoichi rises with the energy of a master of ceremonies and tells the god his villainy makes him sick. Suddenly legendary reinforcements arrive like a special limited-time bonus to finish the job. Ryoichi activates a secret art that transforms his body into the body of the gods themselves. He rushes forward with all his might, unleashing a god-given strike to put an end to this raid. Ryoichi releases a giant wave of energy to push the darkness back. Shin spits out blood, mocking the power of the specially created divine artifact. He insists a single demigod cannot compare to him. They exchange blows at insane speed, and the battlefield turns into a bloody slaughter. Shin cuts through the air with 2 strikes, pure evil fury. The villain decides to attack the girls, only to drive our guy into despair. Ryoichi's accomplices are bustling, setting up defenses while the evil god charges power. A giant sphere of void energy devours everything in sight. Ryoichi spends the last of his strength to bind Shin with holy chains. Even when torn to pieces, our guy does not release the curse. Suddenly, Lily reveals her true form, a gigantic legendary tiger. She pins the villain to the ground, giving Ryoichi a chance for the first strike to put an end to this. Ryoichi pours his spirit magic into a deadly cyclone. The strike hits the target with such force that it breaks the very ground beneath them. Shin falls to his knees as the chains finally break from the blow. He actually thanks Ryoichi for breaking the chains that restrained his power. The villain prepares to unleash full power, but the room is flooded with blinding light. Goddess Sevath descends and tells everyone that Ryoichi did exactly what was needed. She has been hunting this trash mob for 500 years. Shin tries to show that he is brutal, but after a long imprisonment, he is completely exhausted. Seva calls for new divine chains that the villain will not be able to break. Right now, she proclaims the official execution of God's sentence. Shin drags into the abyss. He screams until he is finally sealed. Now the goddess casts a cold look at the corrupt hero. She forces Shin to give up his soul to erase it for endless sins. Ryoichi cannot watch as their beloved trans-traveler friend leaves like this. He asked permission to finish the matter as a warrior, not as a prisoner. Our guy seeks an honest duel to settle the score once and for all. Shin honors this fuss and draws his sword for the final round. They clash without any god for your buffs, only pure skill and steel. Even when the body fails, Shin fights with all his might. Harem watches as these two enemies in battle find a strange kind of peace. It seems they train like brothers, not like mortal enemies. Ryoichi delivers the final blow, and Shin finally accepts his defeat. "You are human," says Ryoichi, not letting him die like a monster. Senri holds the dying one as he dissolves into the light. The law of equivalence activates, and their souls together reach the underworld. The goddess acknowledges that she was influenced by Ryoichi's kindness. The battle has finally ended, and the team can finally breathe normally. Returning to the infirmary, the children burst with joy. They can't wait to hear that their older brother is already coming home. The remains of the undead begin to self-destruct without their king. High Priestess Torka hears a barely perceptible voice confirming the victory. The scene shifts to the huge kingdom of Kale's Lyre. The king officially grants Ryoichi the title honorary baron. The younger princess believes that the baron title is too low for a literal savior. Small says that keeping him in the shadows is the only thing protecting him from the spotlights. She secretly dreams that Ryoichi belongs to her alone as a personal vassal. Eventually, the team returns to the familiar places of IS Village. Seeing the restoration works, our guy plunges into nostalgia. The brothers from the village lose their heads when they learn that their hero is now their lord. Ryoichi tries to pretend to be modest, but the villagers do not believe him. They want him to lead even if only as a figurehead official, while the main one does everything. Nazir and Mari are wildly happy that their beloved traveler has finally returned. Even their natural hot spring village has turned into a large tourist trap. She still blushes a little after that first time when Ryoichi saw her there. Several months pass and Ryoichi is already itching for a new adventure. He wants to explore the world before he gets caught up in a noble drama. The first thing to get a magical airship for the squad. The girls are already fighting over who will get the most attention. Even the little kids throw their hats into the fight for the bride's place. Lily reminds everyone she has already poured out her soul to him twice. Michiko rushes forward and says she has an escort function like in AI. Ryoichi is completely knocked off his feet. The whole chaos overwhelmed him. When he asks what they even like about him, they can't choose just one thing. "It's your kindness." While the journey continues, they all shout. The cavalcade rolls toward the horizon and sets off for the next big quest.